Chenlu felt a little sorry. Well, you really should go first. I feel embarrassed for you to keep waiting for me. Yan Haotian looked at her and said again, how about I take you back? It's on the way and not a hassle. But if you really don't want to. I'm not unwilling, Chenlu said quickly. After saying that, his face turned red, as if she was eager for him to give it to her. Chenlu's voice became softer again, and he explained that I am afraid of bothering you. When Yan Haotian heard this, he couldn't help being happy. He smiled and said, I don't have to go around so much. I really want to give it to you. If it's troublesome, I won't mention it in the first place. If you say that, I'll take it as your promise. Let's go. It's such a hot day. If you wait another 20 minutes, you'll get heat stroke if you go back. Chenlu was too embarrassed to refuse now, so he followed Yan Haotian to the parking lot one after another. After getting into the jeep, Yan Haotian also knew that she was cautious, so he found a topic and asked with a smile, how did you and Huanhuan meet? They also became good friends. Chenlu breathed a sigh of relief subconsciously. As long as he didn't keep silent, it would be fine. She told Yan Haotian that she didn't bring enough cotton-padded clothes and bedding to keep out the cold, and Xia Huanhuan helped her. Yan Haotian listened and said with a smile, the cold in winter in the north is indeed unbearable. There is heating, but generally in order to save coal, we don't burn too much. The first time you go there, you have no experience. Chenlu nodded and said excitedly, that's right. I also didn't expect that it was already February and March over there, and the ice in the river was still so thick. I heard from Huanhuan that in winter, the river can freeze all the way down, and everyone skates on the ice of Hohai. It's so fun. I can't skate yet. Yan Haotian couldn't help but laugh. That's easy. I'll teach you when I get the chance someday. After saying that, both of them couldn't help being stunned. The harmonious atmosphere just turned back to awkward silence in an instant. Fortunately, Chenlu Jia arrived at this time, and Chenlu quickly got out of the car and said in a panic to Yan Haotian, thanks, she ran away. After she got home and returned to her room, she gasped for air. Her heart was beating hard, and her face was feeling hot from running all the way. The stairs were tiring, maybe for other reasons. Here, Yan Haotian looked up at the residential building, feeling quite happy, and left whistling. A few days later, Yan Haotian took a few brothers to the last trip. I want to eat rice rolls at that rice roll and cowboy shop. Chenlu would go to that shop from time to time, and met her a few times. After that, Yan Haotian made an appointment with Chenlu in the park and told her frankly that he wanted to go there. You have also seen my parents and sister. Both parents are from rural areas. I was abducted and trafficked since I was a child. My adoptive parents have passed away. They left me a house in Beijing, and not much else. However, during my years as a soldier, in addition to the allowances sent to my family, I also saved a lot of money. After I get married in the future, the army should also have a quota for housing. In my case, this is exactly what happened. Chenlu, don't be burdened. I am indeed several years older than you. If you feel inappropriate or don't like me, just say so. I will never bother you again. Yan Haotian told her situation in one breath. Chenlu blushed, glanced at Yan Haotian secretly, and lowered his head again. She was torn in her heart. She and Xia Huanhuan were good friends, but suddenly she was in love with her brother. Then, will Huanhuan blame her? After being so entangled, Yan Haotian's heart sank, and he asked softly, is unwilling? Chenlu was even more confused. Yan Haotian's heart dropped for the most part, and he sighed and said, then I'll take you back. As he said that, he turned around to leave, but suddenly, his hand was caught. Yan Haotian turned around in surprise, only to see Chenlu lowering his head, but her hand was holding Yan Haotian's hand and refused to let go. There is no unwillingness. I'm just afraid that Huanhuan won't agree. Yan Haotian was stunned for a moment. Then he was overjoyed and said, are you really willing? It would be easy if you are willing. Don't worry about Huanhuan. She even let me boldly pursue you before she left. In short, you don't have to worry about objections from my family. After hearing Yan Haotian's words, Chenlu breathed a sigh of relief, with a smile on his face, and asked softly, "Really? That would be great.
Then,
Shall we go back?" Yan Haotian immediately said, "Of course I won't go back.
walk.
Let's go take a boat trip on the lake." Yan Hantian and Chenlu are making rapid progress in Guangshi. On the Beijing side, Xia Huanhuan's final results are also out. This time he is third. What is surprising is that Sun Hui actually got second in the department. Li Jixin was in 8th place, much better than in the midterm, but was still overshadowed by Sun Hui. Li Jixin felt very unbalanced. No matter how hard Sun Hui worked, he couldn't just go from 4th place in the midterm, 10th place, 2nd place in the exam. However, it was still on vacation, so we didn't meet each other, so there was no conflict. Xia Huanhuan didn't care about the results, so she left after looking at them, dealing with recorders and tapes bought from small fishing villages. Other items such as electronic watches, belts, wallets, sunglasses, etc. are all bulk goods. It is easy to get them. If you go to the black market and set up a stall, they're all popular items and can be sold in less than an hour. Xia Huanhuan specially left a belt for Mr. Fu and Fu Weixin, a wallet for Fu Nanjing and his second brother Fu Beifa, and a pair of sunglasses for Yuan Chao and He Heping, but the San tapes were secretly given to him, mainly to let them listen to English tapes and practice listening. Even Aunt Chen and Xia Huanhuan at home gave them a bucket of milk powder and biscuits and gave one bucket to each of the Fu family. One bucket was intended for Li Jie and Xia Chioha's family. She couldn't sell the rest of the tape recorder at the black market every day, so she asked Dahe to help her get it from the Hong Kong market. "I'll give you a tape recorder for 40, and it also comes with 2 tapes from popular singers from Hong Kong and Taiwan. The tapes cost 3 yuan a box. You go and sell. Sell more and sell less, and the excess is yours. You get the goods first and then pay me after you sell them. If you can't sell them, just send them back intact. How about it? Will you take it?" Dahe's eyes lit up. Brother Luo also got around 20 of these tape recorders last time. They also sold them in bulk. 1 unit can be sold for 60. It's very popular. If you get it for 40 yuan, it still get the goods first and pay later. The profit from the sale is 20 yuan, which is equivalent to half a month's salary at the factory. Where can I get such a good thing? Dahe nodded hurriedly. Sister Wanner still remembers us. That will definitely work. Sister, how many do you have? Xia Huanhuan didn't tell him the actual number, but said, anyway, it should be sold for a while. When you sell out, just come over and ask me for it. But one thing is that I have to say something ugly first. You can't go to those scoundrels when you are looking for someone. I will get back the money for how many cars I go out. If it is short, then I will look for you, Dahe. Dahe patted his chest and said, Sister Wanner, don't worry. I'm in charge.
Can't.
Xia Huanhuan nodded, and first gave him 10 sets and 20 tapes for him to sell. After returning from the black market, Xia Huanhuan stopped by to see Qi Jian and Qi Ningyu, and then took Qi Jian's pulse. Qi Ningyu said gratefully, Sister Wanner, my dad's cough has improved a lot after the past 6 months of recovery. Sister Wanner, you are so awesome. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, it's mainly due to you. If you hadn't supervised and prevented your father from smoking anymore, no matter how good the medicine is, it would only treat the symptoms but not the root cause. Qi Ningyu smiled sheepishly. Qi Jian snorted dissatisfiedly and said, you will gang up and abuse me. As he said that, he also laughed. Don't you still know his own physical condition in the past 6 months? In the past, he could only have the energy to sit up for 2 hours a day, and then he had to lie down, coughing so hard that he almost vomited out his lungs. Now, he can basically get out of bed during the day, his cough is much lighter, and the symptoms of coughing up blood are basically gone. So, although he said that, he was still willing to listen to his daughter's control. Said, Dad, I'll forget what you say, I won't obey Sister Wanner. Qi Jian pointed at her and said with a smile, Look, it's only been half a year, and you are no longer interested in me as your father. Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled, and said, Uncle Qi, Ningyu, I'll leave first. I'll deliver the medicine tomorrow. Qi Ningyu agreed, immediately went into the back room, took out $1 for medicine and gave it to Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan accepted it without refusing. Just as she was about to leave, Qi Jian suddenly stopped her and said, "That's right. Huanhuan, didn't you say you wanted to do some small business when you bought that small store? Why hasn't there been any action yet? I think the policy has become a little looser in the past 6 months, but some are brave enough to open a small door and sell things secretly." Xia Huanhuan thought he was worried about Qi Ningyu's work, so she smiled and said, "Uncle Qi, I want to wait a little longer, and we can open it this winter at the latest. Don't worry, Ningyu." Qi Jian quickly waved his hand and said, "I'm not worried about that. Can I still not see what you are like in the past 6 months? The street office came to see me a few days ago. As for your facade, didn't I say that it was originally part of the restaurant passed down from our ancestors? It is now used as a warehouse, and the doors and windows facing the street are closed, but it is empty most of the time. The street people said that they recently wanted to release the house and let individuals rent it to make a living, so they gave me priority. I haven't turned them down yet, but I thought you might be interested." Xia Huanhuan's eyes lit up when he heard this. He quickly said, "Uncle Qi, you are really clever. I am indeed interested. How is the rent calculated? How long can I rent at a time? Also, is it possible that this restaurant can be sold to an individual?" Qi Jian couldn't help laughing after listening to her series of questions. "You are too impatient. It hasn't been decided yet. The street office is just asking for opinions first. It's not certain whether it will be rented out in the future. As for selling it after the public-private partnership, this restaurant is now owned by the state, so it's unlikely to be sold." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but sigh when she heard this. Indeed, it's rare to have the intention to rent it out now. As for selling it, I'm afraid I'll have to wait another 10 or 8 years. Qi Jian continued, "If you are interested, I'll tell the street office that I'm interested and ask them to find me first. But you have to prepare the money in advance." Xia Huanhuan said gratefully, "Thank you, Uncle Qi. Don't worry about the money. There will be absolutely no problem." After leaving the Qi family, Xia Huanhuan took out a big watermelon from the space before returning to the courtyard. As soon as she returned to the yard, Li Zhan rushed over, picked up Xia Huanhuan, and spun her around several times. Xia Huanhuan was so scared that she couldn't help but scream "ah," and could only hug him tightly, fearing that she would be thrown out. After Li Zhan put her down, she asked unhappily, "What are you so happy about?" Li Zhan handed him a letter and smiled. "Read for yourself." Xia Huanhuan took the letter in his hand, opened it, and couldn't help feeling happy in her heart. "Dad and Mom can go back to Beijing?"
Lisanud da Sulamli.
In fact, starting from a year and a half ago, the situations of Rongjinbang and Shen Wanxue have been gradually reviewed and investigated, and many people have returned to the city one after another. The Fu family and Li Zhan have been running around for the affairs of Rongjinbang, Shen Wanxue, and Yang Qiushi, and now there is finally a result.
Great.
I will decorate the west wing of our house first, and then let them move in when the time comes," Xia Huanhuan said with a smile. Li Zhan said with a smile, "Don't believe everything you hear. According to the letter, it may be September. It's not too late to tidy it up when the time is almost up." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were also happy to hear the news. Alas, Li Zhan has a miserable life. He has been separated from his biological parents since he was a child. After recognizing his relatives, he cannot show his relationship with them, and they still have to be separated. This is great. The family can finally be reunited, Xia Huanhuan said with a smile. Isn't it? This is really a bright future. What about the master? Is there no movement yet? Li Zhan shook his head and said, I will go and ask tomorrow. It should be almost done. Maybe not this batch or the next one. Xia Huanhuan nodded and then said, if the master returns to the city, I don't know if his original residence is still there. Li Zhan, I plan to bring the master to live here as well. Anyway, this 3-courtyard house can accommodate him. Li Zhan smiled and said, it's up to you to decide. I have no objection. Because of this happy event, Xia Huanhuan took out 3 chickens from the space, a large piece of pork, beans picked from the vegetable garden in the backyard, and bean sprouts soaked in soybeans. For the braised noodles that were made at noon, the pork, Beans and bean sprouts were fried first, leaving some juice, and then the steamed noodles were mixed in. Chicken soup was also made. 3 old hens were used to make a large pot of chicken soup with wolfberries, ginseng slices, mushrooms, etc. After the soup was cooked, Xia Huanhuan asked Xiaowen to carry a thermos and send about one to Grandpa Fu and Fu Weixin. The rest were eaten by the whole family. Xiaowen came back from running errands with a bowl of vegetables in his hand and said, "Mom, Grandma Chin stewed pig's trotters, and Grandpa asked me to bring some back." Xia Huanhuan saw that she sent some chicken soup and earned a few pig's trotters, and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Didn't you tell Grandpa that our family has already prepared the meal, and there is chicken soup enough to eat?" Xiaowen said, "Of course. Grandpa insisted that I take it, and my third uncle also said that there was a happy event at home today, so he bought more than 10 pig's trotters. Bringing some back for us will be enough for us to eat." Xia Huanhuan smiled when she heard it. "Happy event? What a coincidence. Is there any happy event?" Xiaowen said, "I heard that my third aunt is coming back to the city. Third uncle is so happy. This is indeed a happy event. Since Xia Huanhuan left the island, she has not seen Yu Siju again. Third brother finally doesn't have to live apart. This is indeed a good thing. Okay, you should wash your hands and eat." Xiaowen agreed and went. The other kids came over. Bebe asked Mom, "My third aunt is coming back. Will there be a wedding? Can we see the bride?" Xiaowu smiled and said, "There are also red envelopes." The triplets also came over to join in the fun. There are also delicious things to eat. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing. "It's not you who are getting married. Look how excited you are." "Okay, let's eat." After dinner, Xia Huanhuan went to Fu's house and asked about it. It turned out to be true. Yu Siju will be back next month. Fu Nanjun works in the hospital. She had already been allocated housing, a 1-bedroom apartment, which was quite spacious. When Yu Siju came back, he planned to move in. Xia Huanhuan asked about the wedding. Fu Nanjing smiled and said, "Do it. We must hold a wedding ceremony. She has been treated too badly in the past 2 years." Xia Huanhuan nodded, then asked, "What about Uncle Yu and Aunt Yu? Have they made any plans?" "Yes, they have. They said they will probably be able to return to the city by the end of the year. Otherwise, Siju would not want to come back. However, her parents urged her, so they agreed to return in August." Xia Huanhuan went to practice calligraphy with Grandpa Fu for a while and took a walk with Fu Weixin for a while before going back. Time passed quickly. The sales of tape recorders at Dahai's place were also quite good. The first 10 units were sold out quickly. Xia Huanhuan gave 20 units the second time. After several times, the tape recorders and tapes were all sold out in half a month. Xia Huanhuan bought one at 28 yuan. Teresa Ting's tapes were given as a gift, and Su Guanjie's tapes were bought at 2 yuan each, so the cost of one was 30 yuan. She sold 41 units to Dahai. In addition, the tapes were 3 yuan each, and the 2 boxes of Teresa Tung and Su Guanjie were 6 yuan, so the total was 46 yuan. The profit was 16 yuan. Of the 75 tape recorders, she sold about 65 units in total, in addition to the ones she kept for others and for her own use, so the net profit was 1,040 yuan. In just half a month, she earned almost 2 years' salary of others. Dahai also tasted the sweetness and said with a smile, "Sister Wanner, do you have other goods from Hong Kong? It makes money so quickly." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "There are also some scattered electronic watches, sunglasses, wallets, and the like. There are not many. If you want them, I will give them to you." Dahai nodded hurriedly. "Of course I want them." Xia Huanhuan originally wanted to set up a stall in the black market, but she didn't care and just gave them to Dahai. The profit from these things was not much, a total of 100 yuan. In the evening, Xia Huanhuan reported the account to Li Zhan. Li Zhan looked at her with a smile and couldn't help laughing. "My wife is amazing." Xia Huanhuan blushed, rolled her eyes at him, and said, "Why do I feel like a child asking for praise when you say that?" Li Zhan pinched her nose and smiled. "Can you think too much?"
I'm sincere. But
Li Zhan said seriously, "After all, the source of these goods is a bit subtle, so you should be more careful in the future.
Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "Yeah, I've thought about it."
Last time, I went to a small fishing village to explore the way and bought some by the way. In the future, I will try to get the source of goods through legitimate channels. The method last time was actually strictly speaking smuggling. She was not short of money, so there was no need to take risks to lower costs. If something happened, she would be arrested, which was secondary. Li Zhan and the Fu family would be implicated, and the kids in the family would not be able to hold their heads up when they go out in the future. Therefore, she had already decided that the last time was an exception and she would never do it again. If she went through the customs declaration route, although she would have to pay taxes, the price might not be impossible to negotiate. She planned to go directly to Chen Rongxing, whom she met last time, to try to import goods from him next time. Xia Huanhuan continued, "By the way, I want to go to Guangzhou again in August. The light industry, there is more developed. Last time we went to a small fishing village, there were already many newly built factories along the way. I want to buy some clothes to sell." Li Zhan nodded and said, "You have space and the house there has been rented, so you don't have to travel all the way. It's just that I can't go with you, so you have to be careful. It's open over there, but there are also many dangers." Xia Huanhuan smiled. "I'm not a 3-year-old child. Of course I know. Why are you being nagging too?" Li Zhan couldn't help tickling her and said with a smile, "I'm nagging, but I'm worried about you. You really don't know how to appreciate a good person." Xia Huanhuan was tickled and laughed so hard that she was out of breath. She quickly begged for mercy. "Good brother, can't I just admit my mistake?" Li Zhan's eyes darkened, and he looked at her and smiled. "What did you call me?" Xia Huanhuan blushed and bit her lip as she looked at him. Li Zhan leaned over and kissed her, murmuring, "Be good, yell again." As he spoke, his hands began to move. Xia Tian was thinly dressed, and soon the two of them were frank with each other. Xia Huanhuan refused to yell again, but Li Zhan had his own ways. By the end, Xia Huanhuan was like floating in a storm, begging for mercy breathlessly. In August, Xia Huanhuan said that there was a 2-day summer camp to attend during the summer vacation at school and went directly to Guangzhou through the space. This time, she went directly to the state-owned garment factory. Although the clothing styles here are also very simple, it is close to Hong Kong after all, so it will be more or less affected. Some designs are much more novel than those in the mainland. State-owned garment factories supply goods to designated department stores and are basically unwilling to wholesale to individuals. However, this garment factory has a lot of backlogs and cannot sell them. Going out, the department store only consumes a little bit each time. The business manager of the garment factory refused to pay attention to Xia Huanhuan at first. However, Xia Huanhuan persevered in visiting several times. Later, she heard that the manager's mother had arthritis, so she took some fruits and visited the old lady, helped to feel her pulse, and sent Chinese medicine the next day, asking her to boil and take it for conditioning. The old lady was not so defensive, and although Xia Huanhuan had selfish motives, she was dedicated in feeling her pulse and sending her medicine. Therefore, she had a very good impression of Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan sighed. "In this situation, it is really frustrating that you can't buy things even if you have money." Fortunately, she was not particularly anxious, so she visited the old lady every now and then to show her presence. Xia Huanhuan returned empty-handed, and Li Zhan was stunned for a moment. "What? No goods have arrived?" Xia Huanhuan sighed. "There's no way. After all, I'm an individual. The self-employed business has not been liberalized in the strict sense yet. Even if it is liberalized, state-owned factories are generally unwilling to do business with us. We can only do it slowly." She actually considered building her own factory, but one must take one step at a time and eat one bite at a time. To set up a factory, equipment, labor, and raw materials are all considerable investments. She remembered that when it was first liberalized, there were still some rumors that private factories could only employ 7 people at most. If there were more than 7 people, the boss would become a capitalist. Although she had space for raw materials such as cotton and silk, they were in their most primitive state. To make them into cloth and then into clothes, it would take a lot of processes. However, personnel and raw materials are secondary. Equipment. Preparation is the key. State-owned factories have funds and can afford to buy equipment. If she wants to purchase equipment, even if it is equipment that has been eliminated and disposed of by state-owned factories, it will cost tens of thousands of yuan. Now, she really doesn't have tens of thousands of yuan. At most, she only has about 10,000 yuan. If she really wants to set up a factory, she will have to use the gold in the space. This doesn't matter. The gold was originally stockpiled for emergencies. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and decided to wait another 2 years until there are clear policies to open a factory. Now, let's start with sales. Li Zhan smiled after hearing what she said. How can everything go as planned?
Take your time. Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, yeah.
I'm not in a hurry. In August, I started to prepare to register the triplets for elementary school. The elementary school was still the same one that Xiaowu and Beibei went to. Now Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan's household registration and organizational relationship had been officially transferred to Beijing, and the household registration of the kids had also been moved down. Therefore, it didn't take much effort to register, and they just waited for September 1st to register. Xiaowen was going to be in the 2nd grade, Xiaowu was going to be in the 1st grade, and Beibei was going to be in the 5th grade. Except that Xiaowu had to change schools and register for junior high school, there were no other changes. After registering, the triplets pestered Xia Huanhuan to go to the department store to buy them school bags and exercise books, pencils, erasers, and the like. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan took the two of them to the mall. After buying them school bags and stationery, they were about to leave when they suddenly heard a commotion. You fickle thing! How dare you cheat on me behind my back? I'll beat you to death! A man shouted. Then with a pop a loud slap sounded. Ah! The beaten woman fell to the ground with disheveled hair. She was wearing a skirt with a slightly exposed neckline and high heels, which was completely different from the current style. A man next to her saw this and ran away in fear. I didn't know she had a husband. It's none of my business. Xia Huanhuan felt that the woman looked familiar for some reason, and then looked at the man who beat her. It was Su Dao. The woman turned her head to look at Su Dao viciously. If it wasn't Fu Qingye, who else could it be? Seeing that she dared to glare at him, Su Dao was even more furious. You still have the nerve to glare at me. Your daughter is only a few months old, and you don't stay at home to take care of the child. You leave the child to my mother to raise every day, and you run out to fool around with men. If I don't beat you to death today, I'm not Su Dao. Su Dao said. He raised his foot and was about to kick Fu Qingye. Fu Qingye curled up and dodged in embarrassment and resignation. However, there was no pain on his body. Su Dao cursed angrily. Who are you? I teach my wife a lesson. It's none of your business. It can't be her lover.
Ouch.
Let go. Li Zhan twisted his wrist hard and said coldly, Su Dao, what kind of man are you if you even beat your own woman? Su Dao looked carefully and recognized Li Zhan. Pointing at Li Zhan and cursing. Who was I at that time? It turned out to be you. This witch must have you in her mind. Humph. You jump out now. You must have had an affair with her, this stinky woman. The spectators hid. The love of watching the fun is the same in any era and country. With a crisp sound of pop, Su Dao was stunned and looked at Xia Huanhuan in astonishment. Li Zhan also looked at her with a little surprise. Su Dao finally reacted and said fiercely, You dare to hit me. Don't want to live anymore. He was about to pounce on Xia Huanhuan. With Li Zhan around, Xia Huanhuan was not afraid at all and looked at Su Dao calmly. Li Zhan really twisted his arm and twisted it behind his back. Ah, it hurts. Let go.
Su Dao screamed.
Xia Huanhuan was not venting her anger for Fu Qingye. She just didn't like the domestic violence man. What's more, this Su Dao had harmed the Fu family and Li Zhan, so a slap in the face was not enough. Xia Huanhuan said coldly, Su Dao, if you dare to make up stories about my man again, I will make your family live in chaos. What? My man always helps others when he sees injustice, but he has an affair with your wife. How can this be possible? We are a loving couple. Your wife is not a fairy. How can all men in the world want to have with her? These words made the crowd of onlookers nod their heads repeatedly. What the said is right. Didn't the man who had an affair with his wife just run away? This man is also funny, slandering thee as soon as he opens his mouth. He doesn't even look at his wife. That's right, look at how pretty thee is. If I had such a beautiful wife, would I still go out to find an adulterer? Am I crazy? She is even carrying 3 identical triplets. They are obviously shopping in the mall. There is nothing wrong with stopping her from hitting a woman in public. That's right. Listening to what everyone said, Xia Huanhuan felt a little relieved. Su Dao just suddenly stirred up trouble, and I'm afraid there will always be some gossip lovers spreading rumors. Fu Qingye and the Fu family have a special relationship. If some people make up stories out of nothing, it will not be good for Li Zhan's future. So, she slapped Su Dao in the face in public to divert attention and change public opinion. Fu Qingye took the college entrance examination in July, but unfortunately, she didn't do well and failed. Su Dao was angry with her for reading books every day and ignoring his daughter, and now he was even more angry and beat her up. Fu Qingye was so angry that she hooked up with another man. She just saw Li Zhan stop Su Dao and save her, and her heart was beating wildly. She thought Li Zhan cared about her, but she felt a little ashamed and was afraid that Li Zhan knew about her relationship with the man just now. Unexpectedly, Xia Huanhuan showed up halfway and directly explained it as a heroic act. Now, a group of people commented that she was not as pretty as Xia Huanhuan, and she was so angry that her face was very ugly. Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan with admiration and didn't even give Fu Qingye a glance. Soon, a security guard from the mall came over, and Li Zhan told him about Su Dao beating people in public, and the security took Su Dao out. Su Dao still wanted to resist, shouting that he was the director of a certain department. However, his department is now being condemned by everyone. The security guard glanced at him coldly and said, "Behave yourself. If you don't go out, you will be sent to the police station." Here, Fu Qingye stood up and looked at Li Zhan aggrievedly. "Brother Li Zhan, thank you. Su Dao has been beating me, and no one supports me. As for the man just now,
We just met."
It's not what you think. Li Zhan interrupted her and said coldly, "Fu Qingye, I don't have any opinion about your affairs. You chose the path, and now you can't blame others for what has happened. You take care of yourself." After saying that, he took Yao Yao and Ye's hands, while Xia Huanhuan took Yanyan's and left without looking back. Yanyan couldn't help asking, "Mom, who is that auntie?" Xia Huanhuan smiled. "I don't know her." Fu Qingye looked at the backs of Li Zhan, Xia Huanhuan, and the triplets' family of 5, and jealousy and regret made her face more gloomy and twisted. That night, Li Zhan looked at Xia Huanhuan gently and said, "Huanhuan, thank you." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. "Why thank me?" Li Zhan smiled. "Today I helped Fu Qingye in the department store, and you were not angry." Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him and smiled. "You and her didn't do anything. Why should I be angry? Besides, no matter what Fu Qingye did, that Su Dao would beat people, and he was obviously a habitual offender. I hate men who commit domestic violence the most. Otherwise, you can't slap him." Li Zhan nodded and said with a smile, "When I'm here, you can hit me, but when you're alone and meet a man, you can't do that. After all, women can't match men in strength. It's too dangerous." Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, "Of course I know. The matter has passed. However, there are follow-ups to the matter between Fu Qingye and Su Dao. In mid-August, Yu Siju really came back. Fu Nanzheng went to Emerald Island in person to pick Yu Siju up. Xia Huanhuan went to the Fu family to help arrange the welcoming banquet. On the way there, she picked a lot of grapes from the grape racks in the courtyard and also took 2 watermelons from the space and brought them with her. The dishes were quite rich. A large pork elbow that had been braised in advance, stir-fried pork, hand-pulled lamb, steamed pork with rice flour, scrambled eggs with cucumber, beef brisket with tomatoes, and a pot of chicken soup. In addition, 2 fruit-wood roast ducks were packed from Quanjude, along with shredded green onions and cucumbers, sweet noodle sauce, and 4 baskets of pancakes. Soon, Yu Siju and Fu Nanjing came in. Yu Siju was wearing a blue dress and had 2 pigtails. When she saw Fu Weixin and Old Man Fu, she was still a little shy and lowered her head and shouted, "Grandpa, Dad." Fu Weixin was also happy. His third daughter-in-law finally came back, and it could be considered a family reunion. The family sat down quickly and talked about holding a wedding while eating. Holding a wedding in this era is also simple. In fact, it is still at home, inviting relatives and friends over and then cooking a table of dishes to entertain them. Going to a hotel to hold a banquet is not popular now. After discussing, everyone decided to hold the wedding on October 1st. Fu Nanjing smiled and said, "The wedding can be postponed to October, but we have to get the certificate tomorrow, do you hear me?" Yu Siju's face turned red, and she secretly punched him. After dinner, everyone ate the watermelon and grapes brought by Xia Huanhuan. At this time, the phone rang. Aunt Chun answered the phone, and then called Fu Weixin to answer the phone. Fu Weixin took the phone, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. After he hung up the phone, Xia Huanhuan asked, "Dad, is there something wrong?" Fu Weixin's face was a little serious. After a long time, he sighed and said, "Su Dao was arrested. Our courtyard house has also been returned, and someone has been asked to find time to get the key." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. Although Su Dao will eventually perish due to his evil deeds, it was unexpected that he was arrested after just seeing him a few days ago. Fu Nanjing also asked, "Dad, what's going on?" Fu Weixin sighed and said, "I heard that someone reported it anonymously. There is a lot of solid evidence, including the occupation of our courtyard house. And Qingye. I heard that he also abandoned my daughter and eloped with another man, and now he can't be found." Xia Huanhuan. Sometimes she really admired Fu Qingye's courage and ruthlessness in causing trouble. The person who anonymously reported Su Dao was probably Fu Qingye. Su Dao would be fine. After all, he was a domestic violence man, and it would not be a loss even if he spent the rest of his life in jail. But her daughter was only a few months old, right? It was really cruel to just ignore it. However, she didn't care about Fu Qingye's affairs. She just heard about it and didn't express her opinion. Fu Nanjing couldn't help asking, "What about the child?" Fu Weixin said, "I heard from the police station that Su Dao's mother took the child back to raise." Alas, what a sin! Fu Nanjing also sighed and said, "Dad, don't feel bad. Our whole family tried to persuade her back then, but she insisted on jumping into the fire pit. It's purely her own fault that she has become like this now. This could have been foreseen a long time ago." Fu Weixin sighed heavily again and said, "Alas, I know." Then he turned to look at Xia Huanhuan and said, "Huanhuan, after the courtyard house is returned, why don't you give up the courtyard house over there and move here? This way you can save 50 yuan a month." Xia Huanhuan heard it and shook her head and refused. "Dad, we won't move. This one is close to the children's school now. I can take a direct bus to class, and I'm used to living here. If our courtyard house doesn't work, let my third brother and his wife move in. Or when my second brother and his wife return to Beijing to live permanently, they can move over there." After hearing her say this, Fu Weixin did not insist anymore. He had been to Xia Huanhuan's small courtyard many times. There was a grape trellis in the courtyard, with crab apples and lotus flowers planted there. There was also a small vegetable garden in the backyard. It had a rural charm in the bustling city, and he actually liked it from the bottom of his heart. If his daughter wants to rent it, just rent it. He and Old Man Fu subsidized them from time to time, which is enough. At the end of August, there was finally news from the Guangshi state-owned garment factory. Xia Huanhuan went directly to Guangshi through the space and went straight to the home of the mother of the marketing manager of the state-owned garment factory. The marketing manager's surname was Li, so Xia Huanhuan called her Aunt Li. As usual, she brought Chinese medicine for regulating arthritis to Aunt Li and asked her to decoct it. After delivering the medicine, she didn't stay long and planned to leave. But Aunt Li held her and said with a smile, "My daughter, you've been coming here to see me and give me medicine these days. Aunt Li is not a fool. I know you must be asking for something. Do you have something to talk to my son about? If so, don't be shy. Just tell me directly." As long as it's not something against the law, I will help you talk to my son. After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan stopped hiding it and said, Auntie, you are really awesome. Then I won't hide it. I actually looked for Brotherly, wanting to wholesale some clothes from the factory so that I can sell them in the mainland. However, I am an individual, so Brotherly didn't sell them to me. I thought that there were so many accumulated clothes in the factory that couldn't be sold. The leaders of the factory have been putting pressure on Brotherly. Although I am an individual, I pay in cash, which can also help Brotherly share some of his worries. It's a win-win situation, isn't it? But Brotherly didn't agree, so I had to play tricks and find you, Auntie. Auntie Lee heard this. She had naturally seen her son unable to sleep all night and sighing all the time because he could not sell the accumulated goods. She didn't understand. Isn't it a good thing if someone buys? Why doesn't her son sell it? So that's the case? Wait, I'll ask my son in 2 days to see if it's possible. After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan said happily, Then I thank Auntie Lee first. Auntie Lee asked her son about this matter that night. Manager Lee said unhappily, Mom, don't interfere with my work. How can the things of a state-owned factory be sold to anyone casually? If the factory finds out, I might lose my job. Auntie Lee didn't understand either. After hearing what Manager Lee said, she didn't dare to say anything. The next time Xia Huanhuan came, Auntie Lee said apologetically, My daughter, I told my son, and he was mainly afraid that the factory would not agree. My daughter, you should not come here in the future. I feel bad that I can't help you. Xia Huanhuan heard this without any disappointment on her face, and said with a smile, Auntie, it won't work. Don't take it to heart. I did come here with the idea of impressing Manager Lee at the beginning, but now I feel comfortable getting along with you, Annie. Besides, my master taught me that one should be consistent in what one does. Auntie, the treatment of your illness is not over yet. How can I just ignore it? Auntie Lee saw that there was no impatience or disappointment on her face, so she was relieved and said, Then I'll give you the money for the medicine and the medical treatment. I can't let you work in vain. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Annie, if you say that, aren't you destroying the friendship we have had these days? My family grows and prepares medicinal herbs, and they are already made and not worth much. After hearing this, Aunt Lee had no choice but to give up and said with a smile, That's fine. Then I won't be polite to you. But I have to invite you to my home for dinner. You can't refuse. Xia Huanhuan smiled sweetly and said, Then I'm in for a treat. The clear braised pigeon soup you cooked last time was so delicious, I still remember it now. After hearing this, Aunt Lee smiled and said, What's the problem? We people from Guangzhou feel uncomfortable if we drink soup every day. Auntie will make you scallop and winter melon soup tonight, and there will be green bean paste for the end. This relationship continued until mid-September, when Manager Lee came home early on purpose and ran into Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan was a little embarrassed and said, Manager Lee. Manager Lee sighed and said, I'll talk to the factory about your purchase of our factory's overstocked inventory. But I can't guarantee it. Moreover, I have to tell you the reason for the overstocking in case you can't sell it after buying it back. That batch of goods is a kind of trousers called jeans, which were ordered by customers in Hong Kong at the Canton Fair last year. However, the brand was pasted upside down, so the customer didn't want it, and that's why there is an overstock. We gave 100 samples of this thing to the department store to try to sell it. We have been selling it from spring to autumn, and it hasn't been sold out yet. If you buy it back and can't sell it and want to return it, I won't recognize it. Xia Huanhuan's eyes lit up. Jeans are the darling of the fashion world. They have been popular for many years and are enduring. However, it is indeed difficult for people who are used to wearing loose work pants in this era to accept this. Even Guangzhou has hit a wall, right? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Manager Lee, don't worry. I dare to buy from you, so I must be mentally prepared. Even if I can't sell a single pair in the future and I lose all the money, I can't come back to you to refund the money. Manager Lee listened and said, Okay. I'll go and ask for instructions. I'll give you a reply in a few days. Another week passed, and it was already the beginning of September. Everyone in the family, young and old, had to report to school. Xia Huanhuan buttoned up Li Zhan's new military uniform, then stepped back a few steps to take a look, and smiled with satisfaction. My man is still handsome. Li Zhan laughed and couldn't help but said proudly, of course. The triplets walked in and shouted, Mom, we want to wear military uniforms too, and we want to be as handsome as Dad. Xiao Wu poked his head in and said, 3 little ones. Your second brother hasn't put on his clothes yet. After he puts them on, you will be ready soon. Then Lin Yuru told everyone to go eat. Breakfast was cornmeal and red date porridge, mixed flour buns, a plate of pickles, a boiled egg for each person, and a few pieces of braised beef, which was quite rich. After dinner, Xia Shuangshan sent the children to school. Today was the first day for the triplets to go to school. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan also sent them to the school gate and handed them over to the teacher before leaving with peace of mind. The triplets were almost identical and caused quite a stir at the school gate. Teachers, students, and parents all gathered around to watch and couldn't help but envy them. How could they be so fertile? Not only did she give birth to triplets at once, but they were also 3 sons. Li Zhan rode a bicycle and took Xia Huanhuan to Beijing University and then headed to the military academy. The military academy and Beijing University are not far apart, so if the time is right after class, the two can go back together. The weather was clear and crisp in autumn. Although the autumn heat was still very strong, it was still much cooler than in the south. Li Zhan rode a bicycle and took her through the streets lined with thick ginkgo trees. The breeze was blowing, but it was indescribably cozy and comfortable. Although she had given birth to triplets, Xia Huanhuan had the illusion of returning to her teens and 20s and falling in love. Xia Huanhuan saw Chen Lu as soon as she arrived at school. Her brother Yan Haotian had already sent a telegram to report that Chen Lu and her brother Yan Haotian were dating. Of course, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were the happiest. Chen Lu came to play at home last semester, so Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru knew each other. Xia Shuangshan rubbed his hands and smiled. That kid, he said he would act quickly. Now your grandson has hope. The second half of the sentence was said to Lin Yuru. Lin Yuru rolled her eyes at him and said, You make it sound like you don't want to have a grandson. Xia Shuangshan said cheerfully, Of course I want to, but I'm not like you, nagging about it all day long. Lin Yuru ignored him and said to Xia Huanhuan, when school starts, when you meet Chen Lu, bring her home on weekends, and I'll make dumplings for you. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Oh, Mom, we're just dating now. Wouldn't it be embarrassing to ask her to come over? I think we should wait until we're engaged before talking about coming home. When Lin Yuru heard this, she also smiled and said, That's right. When I saw Li Tsuehua back then, I trembled like a mouse seeing a cat. You can't scare other people's children. But tell Chen Lu that the future mother-in-law, will definitely treat her like my own daughter and will never be like Li Tsuehua. Alas. Thinking about it now, Li Tsuehua was really a bully. As she said this, she felt sad and regretful for being so cowardly at that time and couldn't help but lift the corner of her clothes to wipe her tears. Xia Huanhuan hurriedly said, Mom, it's all in the past.
Don't keep thinking about it.
We have to look forward. Look, aren't we living a prosperous life? Lin Yuru nodded and said, Oh, Mom knows. Let's look forward. Chen Lu felt a little embarrassed when she saw Xia Huanhuan. In the past month, she has written no less than 100 pages of the beginning of the letter to Xia Huanhuan, but she just couldn't write it. What to say? In just one summer vacation, she went from being Xia Huanhuan's classmate to her sister-in-law.
No.
Not yet sister-in-law. Now she and Yan Haotian are still in the dating stage.
But
they held hands and kissed each other. Thinking of this, Chen Lu's face became hot. This happened about a week before she left for Beijing. Yan Haotian accompanied her to the train station to buy tickets. After buying the tickets, they went to the park for a walk. When they passed a big rock more than 1 person tall and there was no one around, Yan Haotian suddenly leaned down and kissed her on the cheek. Chen Lu was stunned and subconsciously covered the place where she was kissed with her hands. She stared at Yan Haotian with a pair of innocent big eyes. Yan Haotian thought that being dumb was very cute, so he simply pushed her against the rock and leaned over to kiss her lips. Chun-Lu was panicked, shy and at a loss, but she did not refuse. It was not until both of them were out of breath that Yan Haotian let her go. He stroked her lips that were a little swollen from being kissed with his fingers and suddenly said solemnly, "Chun-Lu, let's get engaged." Chun-Lu was stunned. This stimulation came to two people at a time, and there was no chance to breathe. Yan Haotian said, "You don't have to agree to me immediately. I can wait. You are only a freshman now, and there are still 3 years to go. We can get engaged first and get married after you graduate. I just want to tell you that I really want to marry you. I did that to you just now because I was sure of you. I will be responsible for you." Chun-Lu did not agree immediately. On the one hand, it was because of the girl's reserve. On the other hand, although her family knew that she was dating a soldier, they were somewhat dissatisfied. Her parents wanted her to date a local boy in Guangzhou. In addition, she had not told Xia Huanhuan yet, and she was afraid that Xia Huanhuan would object. Therefore, when Yan Haotian came to see her off, she did not dare to look up at Yan Haotian. "Huanhuan, you are here already?" Xia Huanhuan saw that she was so nervous that she was incoherent. She probably was struggling with how to talk to her about her and Yan Haotian. She blinked and shouted, "Sister-in-law." Chun-Lu blushed when she heard it. You know?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said with a smile, "My brother has already told me this in a telegram. Are you struggling about how to tell me?" Chun-Lu nodded with a red face and asked, "Then you don't object?" Xia Huanhuan smiled. "Why should I object? We are best friends, and you will become my sister-in-law in the future. Isn't it good that you don't quarrel with me?" After hearing this, Chun-Lu felt relieved. The two walked towards the dormitory. Xia Huanhuan leaned over and asked quietly, "Tell me the truth. How far have you and my brother developed? Holding hands? Or kissing?" Chun-Lu's face turned even redder. He glanced at Xia Huanhuan shyly, and then nodded lightly. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing and said, "So we kissed? Very good, very fast progress." It seems that Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru's dream of having a grandson is not far from realization. However, Chun-Lu also quietly proposed engagement to Yan Haotian, but she has not responded yet. Her parents still have some disagreements, and she also told Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan listened and said, "My parents are thinking about their daughter. They are afraid that you will be bullied after marrying far away. Your parents and brothers are not around to help you. They are afraid that you will suffer. It's understandable. Don't worry too much. Time will tell the heart of a person. I believe that my uncle and aunt will accept my brother." As they talked, they went to the dormitory. The other people were also there. Sun Hui was proudly accepting Feng Yu's flattery because she ranked second in the department. Li Jixin sneered slightly on the side. Not long after Xia Huanhuan arrived, a teacher from the school's teaching department came over and said, "Sun Hui, Xia Huanhuan, come with us." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. What did the teaching department suddenly want to do with her? Sun Hui's face suddenly turned pale. The two were not taken to the same place. The one who asked Xia Huanhuan the question was a male teacher. He said straight to the point without any nonsense, "Someone anonymously reported that you cheated in the final exam, so we want to find out the situation." Xia Huanhuan then knew what was going on. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Teacher, this is a false accusation. I didn't plagiarize." The teacher said, "We also need to integrate the testimonies of all parties to make a judgment. It's not that you can't say no and it's not true." Xia Huanhuan said, "Teacher, since it's a false accusation, the other party must have other tricks. What if someone is bribed and insists that I cheated? Then I can't clear myself even if I jump into the Yellow River. I think it's better to try another way to prove my innocence." The teacher looked at her, pondered for a moment, and asked, "Tell me what method." Xia Huanhuan said, "Teacher, you can ask our professors of each subject to give me a new test question temporarily, and I will do it on the spot. If I can get a high score, then it should be able to prove that I took the test based on my own ability, not by cheating, right?" The teacher was stunned for a moment, then knocked on the table, frowned and said, "Student, be serious. Don't think you can escape the blame by being so sensational." Xia Huanhuan looked at him. Teacher, what do you mean by this? Aren't you still investigating? How can I escape the blame? The male teacher also realized that he had said the wrong thing. After glancing at Xia Huanhuan, he sneered. Okay. If you are so uncooperative, then I will ask the department to see if they agree to let you retake the exam. Xia Huanhuan was speechless. Teacher, I don't think I am uncooperative. I have answered all your questions truthfully and expressed my willingness to retake the exam. Please don't put accusations on me casually, otherwise, I will ask other teachers to investigate this matter. The male teacher was stunned and left the room angrily. Professor Wang, who had taken Xia Huanhuan to an inspection before, happened to pass by and heard the conversation inside. He said, if the students are willing to retake the exam, let the professors of each subject give a few more difficult knowledge points for the retake. This is related to a student's lifelong reputation. You must be cautious and not ruin people casually. Professor Wang is highly respected, and the male teacher did not dare to neglect him, so he had to agree reluctantly. Soon, new questions were given to each subject, and 2 copies were photocopied, one for Xia Huanhuan and the other for Sun Hui, so that they could answer the questions in the room. Xia Huanhuan was not vague. She looked at the test paper, picked up the pen, and started writing quickly. After all, this time the questions were not a formal final exam, and only a part of the questions were given. Even so, it took Xia Huanhuan about 3 hours to finish. The male teacher took the test paper away and gave it to the professors of each subject to mark and approve. Facts have proved that Xia Huanhuan did not cheat, and her performance this time was even better than the final exam. Professors of all subjects, without exception, gave high scores.
How?
Is this possible? The male teacher was still a little unconvinced. After hearing this, the other professors asked unhappily, why is it impossible? Xia Huanhuan usually attends classes on time, actively answers questions, discusses, and makes reports. She also completes her homework seriously. She is a good student. You think it's impossible. What's the matter? Are you suspecting that so many of us professors had colluded with her in advance to help her? After hearing this, the male teacher realized that he had offended so many professors in the department at once, and hurriedly apologized with a smile. Teachers, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. In addition, although some side witnesses unanimously pointed out Xia Huanhuan, and even Sun Hui tried to drag Xia Huanhuan to take the blame, but with so many test papers close to full marks and the support of professors from various subjects, Xia Huanhuan was cleared of suspicion and was released. On the contrary, Sun Hui's test was a mess. She was not the second in the department in any way. After another review, she confessed the fact that she bought the test paper. Xia Huanhuan returned to the dormitory, and Chen Lu hurriedly came up to her and asked worriedly, Huanhuan, are you okay? What does the department want to see you about? Although Li Jixin was reading a book, she was actually paying attention to what Chen Lu and Xia Huanhuan were saying. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, it's no big deal. Someone reported me for cheating, and now it's clear. After hearing this, Chen Lu breathed a sigh of relief, but immediately became indignant. That's great. What kind of person is this? He's just jealous of your good test scores. He could have scored better than you, but he stabbed you in the back. He can do such a thing that ruins someone's future. He's worse than pigs and dogs. Li Jixin put the book aside with a cold face, turned his head, and slept against the wall. Xia Huanhuan glanced at her out of the corner of her eyes and couldn't help sneering. Sun Hui was finally given a disciplinary punishment of probation and came back with swollen eyes from crying. When she came back and saw that Xia Huanhuan was unharmed, she felt even more unbalanced and came up to tear Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan, why are you okay? Xia Huanhuan dodged easily, and Sun Hui missed and fell to the ground in embarrassment. Xia Huanhuan sneered. Nonsense. I didn't cheat. Why would I be in trouble? Dare to do it, you must dare to take responsibility. At worst, you can hate the person who reported you. Don't make trouble in front of me anymore. If you dare to provoke me again, don't blame me for being rude. Fighting in school will also be punished. Xia Huanhuan glanced at someone who had been paying attention to her and couldn't help sneering. She was not so stupid as to fight with Sun Hui. When Sun Hui heard this, she really shifted her attention to the person who reported it. However, without thinking, she pointed at Xia Huanhuan's nose and said, "If the person who reported it is not you, who else could it be? Don't think about it." Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes. "Can I report myself when I report it? My brain has been kicked by a donkey again. Don't you think about it carefully who is jealous of you, who is most likely to know that you bought the test paper to cheat." Sun Hui was stunned for a moment, and then she began to think about it. It doesn't matter if you think about it. She really wants to tell Li Jixin. At that time, she also asked Li Jixin if she was willing to buy it with her, so that Xia Huanhuan's arrogance can be extinguished. Li Jixin did not agree. Thinking of this, Sun Hui turned her head suddenly and saw Li Jixin. "Li Jixin, did you report it? I ranked second in the department and you only ranked 8th. You are jealous of me, aren't you?" As he said that, he slapped Li Jixin twice on the face. Li Jixin was proud and arrogant. How could she have suffered such humiliation? Moreover, it was Sun Hui, whom she didn't think highly of, who hit her. She couldn't help but fight back. The two of them were fighting, one pulling my hair, and the other twisting her face, just like shrews. Xia Huanhuan watched them fighting each other, and took Xinlu out to eat. Someone reported the fight to the security department, and the two were pulled apart by people who came later. In the end, Li Jixin was also punished with a demerit. Sun Hui was originally on probation, and now she was directly expelled. While Xia Huanhuan was busy with her studies, she would go to Guangzhou through space on weekends or when she didn't have classes. On this day, she picked a basket of grapes from the grape rack in her yard and went to Guangzhou. The grape variety in the courtyard of the quadrangle is the authentic Xinjiang horse milk grape, which is long and oval, crystal clear green, almost seedless, and extremely sweet. In this era, the cold chain was not so developed, and the north-south communication was not so convenient. In the south, this variety has never been seen. Aunt Li's teeth were loose, but she could still bite the grapes, and she felt sorry. "Oh, you wasting money again. This grape variety is really sweet." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I was just passing by the fruit market and saw some for sale, so I just bought some." "Auntie, just eat whatever you like." While they were talking, Manager Li came back and finally brought good news. When the factory leaders heard that someone was willing to sell the inventory, they were so happy that they couldn't wait to object. However, Manager Li was still cautious and agreed to give 100 pairs of jeans in a batch, 6 yuan per pair, which was a cost processing price. Xia Huanhuan didn't mind. "Sell 100 pairs first, anyway. It's convenient for her to come here, and then discuss the next batch after selling them." Moreover, everyone in Beijing is still cautious now, so she really has no idea how the sales volume will be. However, Xia Huanhuan also felt that jeans alone were a bit thin. She actually also had her eyes on the thin sweaters knitted by machines in the factory. Now, in most parts of the country, people still buy wool and knit sweaters and trousers by hand. The ones they knit themselves are hard, thick, and heavy. Compared with those knitted by machines, they have more colors and patterns, and are also very soft and warm. Xia Huanhuan mentioned it to Manager Li. "Manager Li, could you give me 100 of the sweaters in the factory so that I can sell them together? If 100 is not enough, 50 will do." Manager Li hesitated for a moment and said, "That's fine. I'll ask the leader. The sweaters are supplied to department stores, so there won't be much pressure. I'll see if I can give you 50 pieces." Xia Huanhuan was overjoyed and said, "Thank you, Brother Li." I came again, and the sweater business was also settled. There were 50 pieces, 8 yuan each. Together with the jeans, it was exactly 1,000 yuan. Xia Huanhuan paid directly. She hired a cart and asked someone to go to the factory to pick up the goods and delivered them directly to the house she rented. Then she put them into the space and returned to Beijing through the space. The goods were obtained, but how to sell them was also a problem. Opening a store is definitely not realistic. The Qi family shop that I bought in Beijing last time was intended to sell snacks. It happened to be adjacent to a restaurant. If I could rent the restaurant, I would definitely make money directly from the restaurant in the future. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and decided to set up a stall first. This year, various places have loosened up a lot. In Guangzhou, which is close to the port city, there are already many people who dare to set up stalls. Around Shanghai, there are also many people who are bold enough to run their own business in Zhejiang province. Even in Beijing, the original black market is actually semi-public. However, if you encounter patrols, you still have to run. Xia Huanhuan did not outsource to Dahe and his men this time. The main reason was that the price she paid for the goods was not low. If she took a cut of the cost, the price at Dahe's place would be much higher. A pair of pants cost nearly half a month's salary. Even in Beijing, it would be hard to sell them. Let's wait until the cost is reduced before we talk about it. Xia Huanhuan did it right away. A few days after she got the goods, she had no classes, so she changed into a sweater and jeans and asked Xia Shuangshan to ride a cart to take her to the location she had specially selected in the black market. The location was close to a winding alley. If anyone came, she would quickly run into the alley and then directly enter the space. She took out a clothes rack from the space in advance and then hung up a few samples supported by hangers and put the rest in her bag. She took out 20 sets this time, mainly because she was afraid that it would be easier to run away if she had to. There were not many people selling clothes in the black market, and people were still used to buying them in department stores. However, when Xia Huanhuan stood there, she was a movable sign. She had a first-rate figure, and her jeans were slim-fitting, which perfectly set off her figure. Her sweater was a little loose, but it just supported her chest, not too eye-catching, and still showing her curvaceous figure. Therefore, although there was no hawking, several women had been peeking at this side from time to time, but they did not dare to come forward to ask. Xia Huanhuan smiled and greeted, "Big sister, come and have a look. These are new goods from Guangzhou City, and they are unique in Beijing City." After she called out, two people came over together. One of them touched the jeans and asked suspiciously, "What kind of fabric is this? It feels quite thick." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "The fabric of these pants is called denim, which is exported from Guangzhou to foreign countries to earn foreign exchange for the country. It is said that they are sold in the domestic market because the wrong label is attached to them, and they are no longer wanted abroad. You see, this label is upside down. Everything else is fine. The quality is very good and can be worn for many years. What's more, it is warm and can be worn now." When the two heard that it was originally sold abroad and not available in China, and saw that Xia Huanhuan was wearing it and it looked really good, they were a little tempted. The other person touched the sweater and said, "Wow, this sweater is so soft, you can touch it quickly." The first person really touched the sweater. "Isn't it much softer than the ones he knitted with wool himself?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "This is also new from Guangzhou. It's machine knitted and can be worn now. The pattern and color are also beautiful." The two of them couldn't let go and touched it again and again before asking, "How much is it?" Xia Huanhuan said, "The jeans are 10 yuan a pair, and the sweater is 12 yuan a piece. If you want a set, it will be 1 yuan cheaper for each. Take it for 20. 20 is half a month's salary. However, for one piece, it is still acceptable." The two discussed for a long time and looked at Xia Huanhuan wearing it, and they were really tempted. "We will buy one each. Can you give us a discount?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Why not? I'll pack you brand new ones." Then, she took out a sweater and jeans from her bag and handed them to the two people. The original plastic bags were still there, with the trademarks and the words Guangzhou Garment Factory were written on them. The two people were very satisfied after seeing them, so they paid and left happily. With the ticket for the opening, many people came to ask for prices, and some wanted to try on the sweaters. Xia Huanhuan did not stop them and let them try the samples. Whoever wanted to buy, she would give them brand new clothes. Others saw it, and they didn't say anything in their hearts, but they were all very happy to be respected. If this happened in a state-owned department store, let alone trying if you just touched it, if you met a bad-tempered waiter, he would force you to buy it. Moreover, they would definitely not give you new products with original packaging. They would take them down directly from the shelves and sell them to them. In addition, Xia Huanhuan did not restrict them. Even if they did not know each other, if one wanted a sweater and the other wanted jeans, and they bought them together as a set, she would give them a discount of 2 yuan. Or if they bought 2 sweaters and 2 pairs of jeans separately, she would also give them a discount. Therefore, in a short while, more than a dozen pieces were sold. Xia Huanhuan saw that most of them were sold, so she planned to close the stall. While she was packing up, Li Zhan came over on a bicycle. Huan. Xia Huanhuan looked up and saw him, and was stunned for a moment. Why are you here? Didn't I say I can do it alone? However, seeing that Li Zhan has changed into casual clothes, it doesn't have much of an impact. Li Zhan's eyes couldn't help but burn when he saw Xia Huanhuan wearing a light blue printed sweater and a pair of slim jeans that perfectly outlined her figure. He smiled and said, "It's on the way. Mainly, I want to go home with you." As he spoke, he bent down to take the bag from Xia Huanhuan and stuck it in front of the 28-inch bicycle. Xia Huanhuan felt sweet when she heard it. It's impossible to go on the way. It would take a long way to go from the military academy to here and then go home. On the way, Xia Huanhuan hugged Li Zhan's waist and reported today's gains to him. We took out 20 sets today. Except for 3 sets for samples, the remaining 17 sets were all sold. The minimum profit for a set of 2 pieces is 6 yuan, and there are also single purchases with a profit of 4 yuan per piece. In total, we made at least 100 yuan. Li Zhan was still quite shocked after hearing this. Apart from anything else, he is now in a military academy at the deputy division level, and his monthly allowance is only 80 yuan. Xia Huanhuan earned more than his monthly allowance in one day. However, more than that, he liked Xia Huanhuan's excited look after making money, confident and cute.
Got it.
Hold on tight, don't fall. As he spoke, the bicycle really twisted a few times, and Xia Huanhuan was so scared that she quickly hugged him tightly and suddenly touched his abdominal muscles mischievously and said with a smile, "Li Zhan, why do I feel that your abdominal muscles have become a lot stronger?" The bike shook again, and Li Zhan quickly stabilized it, gritting his teeth and smiling. "Don't touch me randomly. Wait until we go back tonight, and I'll let you touch me enough." Xia Huanhuan blushed, took back her hand, and smiled. "Who wants to touch me?" Then she asked, "By the way, didn't my parents send a telegram saying that they would be able to return to Beijing in a few days? Why don't we take a leave to pick them up there?" Li Zhan smiled and said, "I was thinking of telling you one of these 2 days, but do you want to go with me? I can go alone."
Xia Huanhuan said, "How can that be?"
"Let's go buy tickets tomorrow and I'll go with you." Li Zhan couldn't enter or leave her space, so she had to accommodate Li Zhan and take the bus with him. Li Zhan thought about it and said, "That's fine." The two talked all the way home. Lin Yuru was drying cowpeas and chili peppers in the yard, and she also made 2 large jars of pickles. The cowpeas must be boiled in water first, and then dried to make dried beans. In winter, after soaking in boiling water, they can be cut and fried with bacon. This wave is the last crop in the backyard vegetable garden. After harvesting this crop, the beans, green peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, etc. will all be picked up, and radishes, garlic, cabbage, and the like will start to be planted. Xia Huanhuan washed her hands and went to help. While washing, she reported today's income to Lin Yuru. Lin Yuru was stunned. "Oh my God! How much did you earn in just half a day's work?" Xia Huanhuan smiled affirmatively. 100. Lin Yuru looked at her with wide eyes. 100. Oh my God! The factory workers with a stable job can't earn that much in a month. Xia Huanhuan actually had a general feeling about 100 yuan, but setting up a stall to sell clothes was a new thing for her, so she was still happy to hear it. "Mom, 100 yuan is just the beginning. In the future, the policy will be more and more relaxed, and individuals will not be prohibited from doing business, so you can earn more." That may not be the case. It is Xia Huanhuan's first day today, and she is selling foreign trade products from Guangzhou. There are no substitutes on the market, so even if it's a little expensive, everyone is still willing to spend money. When the market is liberalized, there will definitely be many people doing this business. Once there are many competitors, the blue ocean will turn into a red ocean, and that's a price war, competing on who has lower costs and who sells more goods. It's just like Coca-Cola. The formula is simple, but no small company can beat the 2 giants.
Why?
The giants' costs can't be lowered anymore, and they haven't raised prices for many years. What can a small company use to compete with them? However, she told Lin Yuru all this, but Lin Yuru didn't understand. Besides, she is not afraid of competition. Only when there are more competitors can the market prosper and everyone can make money together. Competitors are not mortal enemies. She is also confident that she can always stay ahead. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, I think I'll look for another store in a few days and open a clothing store then. Lin Yuru couldn't think of that and smiled and said, Wanner, I don't understand what you said now.
But don't worry.
You and Li Zhan can just focus on making your own way outside, and your dad and I are at home. The children are all grown up, so you don't have to worry too much.
Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, Mom, thank you. Without you and my dad, I wouldn't be able to spend so much time on those things.
As she spoke, she suddenly remembered something and said, By the way, Mom, your braised food is delicious, such as braised pig's trotters, braised pig's large intestines, pig's liver, and the like. I was thinking, I'll open the store I bought last time in winter, and you and my dad will take care of it. We can do a brine business, or a bun shop, a dumpling shop, or something like that. Lin Yuru was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously said, Open. Open a store? How can your dad and I do it?
No.
I can't even do arithmetic well. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Mom, you just need to be responsible for braising food. I have already asked a slaughterhouse in the suburbs for ingredients. They are willing to give me pig offal, cow offal, or pig heads at a low price. If I want to make dumplings or steamed buns, I can also get flour, pork, shrimp, celery, cabbage, shepherd's purse, etc. Don't I still have my dad to take care of the money collection in the store? You can just run it as a business, and my dad won't have to go out to haul coal for others. And the daughter of the original owner of the store can come and help. We can open it for an afternoon. If she is tired, it's okay to not open it for several days. Anyway, the store belongs to our family, and we won't lose money if we close it. Lin Yuru was still a little scared, and Xia Shuangshan came over and said, Hey, what are you afraid of? Don't I still have me? Our daughter asked us to do it, so we will try it. If we can't do it, we can still say no later. Lin Yuru listened and said with a smile, Okay, then your father and I will give it a try. I didn't expect that after living for such a long time, I still have the opportunity to become a boss's wife. If I go back to Qingshui village and tell them about it, won't the old sisters in the village envy me to death? Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing. Anyway, as long as you are happy. Whether or not to make money is secondary. Xia Huanhuan mainly wants them to have something to do. At the beginning, Xia Shuangshan felt useless and at a loss because he went from the countryside to the city all of a sudden, so he carried her to haul coal. Instead of working the street, it is better to work hard in your own store, and there will be some sense of accomplishment and belonging. The store is only open for half a day, and Qinning you helps. If you are still tired, you can hire another person, it doesn't matter. Li Zhan had no objection to this matter. He helped to dry the beans while listening to Xia Huanhuan's arrangements with a smile. That night, Li Zhan couldn't wait to Xia Huanhuan and said with a smile, Don't you want to touch your abdominal muscles during the day? Now I'll let you touch it. Xia Huanhuan was so embarrassed that she punched him lightly in the stomach. Li Zhan covered his stomach and pretended to be in pain. Xia Huanhuan didn't believe it at first, but when she saw his painful expression and he didn't speak for a long time, she got scared and quickly pulled him to watch, and then she was overwhelmed all of a sudden. Huanhuan, are you murdering your husband? The next day, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan went to the train station to buy tickets, planning to leave for the farm where Xin Wanxue and the others were in 2 days. 2 days later, the two set off. The triplets clamored to go, but Xia Huanhuan gave them 50 cents. The three of them happily went to the grocery store to buy egg rolls. Xia Huanhuan also left an extra 5 yuan for Xiaowen and the others, and told Xiaowen and Xiaowu to take good care of their grandparents and younger brothers, and if there was anything, to go to Grandpa Fu and the third uncle for help. In fact, since the children started school, she would give them pocket money every month. Xiaowen, who was in junior high school, got 2 yuan a month, and Xiaowu and Beibei, who were in elementary school, got 1 yuan a month, so that they could buy stationery or snacks. However, Xia Huanhuan would not interfere too much in how they used the money. At most, she would ask, and as long as they didn't do anything bad, it would be fine. Xiaowen and Xiaowu nodded sensibly. Beibei also said, "Fourth uncle, Mom, don't worry. With us here, nothing will happen at home." Xia Huanhuan was amused and said, "Okay, I'll leave it to you." Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan did not delay. They bought sleeper tickets and sat overnight. They arrived in Hohhot the next morning. They took a bus to the county, where the farm was located. However, they did not have to go to the farm specifically. The local authorities had already notified those who could return to the city, and they all agreed to be taken to the county guest house by cars sent by the county leaders. Those who went back by themselves, or if there are family members coming to pick them up, they can stay a few days longer or shorter according to their own circumstances. Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang had already received their telegrams, so they were waiting in the guest house. Many other people had left one after another. Before leaving, those who were closer came to say goodbye to them. When they heard that they were waiting for their sons and daughters-in-law to come and pick them up, they couldn't help but envy them. "Oh, your sons and daughters-in-law are really conscientious. I have 4 sons and 3 daughters. I am going back to the city. I sent them a telegram, but no one replied to me. They are afraid that I will cause trouble for them." Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang felt upset after hearing this, and they pulled him aside and said a lot of comforting words. After sending that person away, someone from the guest house came up to call them and told them that someone who claimed to be their son and daughter-in-law had come downstairs. Really? Really? Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang were so happy that they stuttered. Shen Wanxue smiled with tears in her eyes. She quickly touched her head and asked Rong Zhenbang, "Zhenbang, look quickly. Is my hair messy? Am I too haggard?" She looked again and saw that Rong Zhenbang's hair was already gray and his face was wrinkled a lot. Thinking that she might not be much better, she couldn't help but feel sad and wiped her tears with a handkerchief. Rong Zhenbang stroked her hair and smiled. "Look at you. When you can't see your son and daughter-in-law, you keep talking about it every day. Now that they are really about to meet, you start crying again. If Li Zhan and Huanhuan see it, you must feel bad." Shen Wanxue punched her and said, "What can I do? I don't want to cry either." However, she quickly adjusted her mood and walked over with Rong Zhenbang. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan were in the front hall. When they saw Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang coming down together, they quickly went to meet them and supported them. Li Zhan was still a little awkward. After all, they had never lived together. However, he hesitated for a moment, and then he looked at her solemnly. "Dad, Mom, we are here to pick you up." If they couldn't call out their parents now, how sad they would be. Xia Huanhuan also shouted, "Dad, Mom." "Hey, hey." Li Zhan, Huanhuan, I didn't expect that we could be reunited as a family. As she spoke, Shen Wanxue had raised her handkerchief to wipe her tears again. Xia Huanhuan saw that the handkerchief she was using seemed to be made of Suzhou embroidered silk. She and Rong Zhenbang were both wearing neat and clean clothes. Although they were all popular styles, they still couldn't hide the temperament of the young masters and young ladies from big families. This handkerchief must have been hidden by her on purpose, and she took it out today. Xia Huanhuan was very impressed by their demeanor. Rong Zhenbang smiled and said, "Hey, don't blame me, your mother is just excited." Xia Huanhuan held Shen Wanxue's hand, and her eyes couldn't help but turn red and said, "Mom, don't be restrained. Cry if you want to. I'll accompany you." Li Zhan and Rong Zhenbang looked at the two ladies like this, feeling helpless and distressed. Shen Wanxue took Xia Huanhuan and asked about the situation at home, how Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were, how the triplets were, etc. Xia Huanhuan told them one by one. Xiaowen and Xiaowu are in junior high school, Beibei is in the 5th grade, and Yan, Ye and Yao Yao will just start the 1st grade of elementary school in September this year. Otherwise, they would have been brought here together. Shen Wanxue thought about how she left Qingshui village when the triplets were only 2 years old. It had been 4 years in a flash. Really? They're already in elementary school? I wonder if the 3 little ones still look exactly the same and can't be told apart. Li Zhan laughed and said, "Isn't it?" Sometimes I call them by the wrong names. Once I do, those three little rascals will all dislike me. Everyone laughed. Shen Wanshue glanced at Rong Zhenbang and said, "Oh, time flies so fast. Your dad hasn't even met the kids yet." Xia Huanhuan would ask someone to send photos every year, but she had never seen the real people. "Mom, we have already bought your tickets. We will see you as soon as we return to Beijing." Shen Wanshue nodded and said, "Yes."
Good.
Xia Huanhuan continued, "Mom, where you and Dad will live after returning to Beijing." Xia Huanhuan said, "Mom, you and Dad will live with us after returning to Beijing. We are now living in a large courtyard with 3 entrances. The place is large and there are enough rooms. When the time comes, the whole family will have someone to take care of us." Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wanshue originally had a place to live in Beijing, but the policy has not yet been implemented, so the property has not been returned to the original owner. If they go back, they can only live in a small dark room before going to the countryside. Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wanshue were still a little hesitant and looked at each other. They didn't want to cause trouble for their son and daughter-in-law. Li Zhan went on to say, "Dad, Mom, please don't bother us. Our family has been separated for so many years, and after recognizing each other, we have been separated again for so many years. Do we have to separate again after finally reuniting? You can live with us first. If you are not used to it or still want to move out and live alone, Huan, and I will definitely not force you." How could Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wanshue not want to live with their son? They have been lonely for 20 or 30 years, and they have always supported each other, looking forward to reuniting with their son every moment. Now their son, daughter-in-law, and 6 sensible grandchildren are all around them. This is the joy of family. Shen Wanshue nodded and said, "Well, then your father and I will live there directly." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Mom, that's right. I also have good news to tell you. My master will probably be able to return to the city in winter. I was thinking about bringing him to live in our courtyard by then so that we can take care of each other. I can also continue to study Chinese medicine." Shen Wanshue listened and thought of the days in Qingshui village. She nodded and said, "Alas, old Yang is the same. He didn't give his wife and children. Those distant nephews and nieces have long severed ties. It would be better if we could bring him over to live with us." The group took the train. Along the way, Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan told Shen Wanshue and Rong Zhenbang about their current situation. Shen Wanshue was shocked and relieved to hear that Li Zhan was attending a military academy and Xia Huanhuan was admitted to Peking University. "You are both good and motivated children." The next morning, we arrived in Beijing. When we returned to the courtyard, the children were not at home because they had gone to school. Only Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yuru, and the wolf cub were there. This was the first time the wolf cub saw Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wanshue, so he barked a few times responsibly. However, after being stopped by Xia Huanhuan, Shen Wanshue was startled and asked with a smile after seeing that the wolf cub had no ill intentions, "This dog is quite majestic, like a wolf." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "What a coincidence, his name is Wolf Cub." Shen Wanshue smiled and said, "That's quite appropriate." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were somewhat reserved. No matter how poor Shen Wanshue and Rong Zhenbang were, they were also intellectuals. How could they compare with others? However, Shen Wanshue took Lin Yuru's hand and said gratefully, "In-laws, thank you for taking care of me when I was in Qingshui village. There are still so many years left, but for the help of you and Brother Shuangshan, where would this family be able to move around? I have done nothing for so many years, and I feel really guilty." Lin Yuru quickly shook her head and said, "Oh, we didn't do anything. The children are all obedient, they just do cooking, pick up and drop off the children, etc. It's nothing like that." Shen Wanshue shook her head and said, "How can these be nothing? Taking care of a home is even harder than working outside." Everyone said, and went into the room to sit and talk again. Because she knew in advance that they would be home today, Lin Yuru stewed chicken soup early in the morning and started cooking at noon. Xia Huanhuan and Shen Wanshue, they all rolled up their sleeves and went to the kitchen to get busy. They packed a plate with beef stewed the day before, fried lamb tripe with green pepper, steamed pork with rice noodles, braised pork, boiled fish, and other items such as kong tofu and cold lotus root. Stir-fried pork liver with celery, stir-fried chicken with kimchi, stir-fried green vegetables, etc. A large table was set up. Xia Huanhuan also took out a bottle of erguotu from the space and let several men on the table drink it. Xiao Qingzi squeezed the juice and gave it to the women and children. Soon at noon, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei came in with the triplets. "Grandma,
Mom,
what to eat for lunch? I'm starving to death." Xiao Wu, always lively and active, shouted as soon as he entered the door. The triplets also saw the same thing. "I'm starving to death." Everyone rushed through the door and was stunned for a moment when they saw Shan Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang looking at them nervously and expectantly. When Shan Wanxue left, the triplets didn't remember anything, so they didn't know each other. After Xiaowen, Xiaowu and Beibei were stunned for a moment. They recognized Shan Wanxue and immediately rushed over happily, shouting, "Grandma Shan, why are you here?"
hey,
Before Shan Wanxue could speak, her eye circles turned red, and she choked and said, "This should be Xiaowen. This is Xiaowu, Beibei. You have all grown so tall." The triplets ran to Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan's feet and stood at their feet. They raised their heads and asked, "Mom, who are they?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "They are your grandfather and grandmother. They are so grown up. Please call them quickly." The triplets were carrying small school bags and red scarves. They were very cute. They shouted politely, "Grandpa, Grandma." Rong Zhenbang and Shan Wanxue felt excited when they saw the three little guys who were exactly the same as they were carved in pink and jade. They came over and knelt down, touched their heads, and said with a smile, "You are Yan Yan Yi Yi and Yao Yao. Bar? It's so big." Shan Wanxue choked and said, "Isn't it? When I left Qingshui village, I had just learned how to run and they called me Grandma, Grandma, Grandma after me, but they didn't know much else." Unexpectedly, they are now in the first grade of elementary school. Yan Yan tilted her head and asked, "Grandpa, Grandma, are you my dad's parents? Our teacher has taught us that my father's father is my grandfather and my father's mother is my grandmother." "Aha! I learned it too. But, grandparents, why have you never been at home for so many years?"
Ye asked thoughtfully.
Yao Yao smiled happily and said, "It's better now. The kids in the class all laughed at me and Yan Yan Yi for not having grandparents, and we will have them in the future too." The words of the three people made the adults laugh. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "The reasons why your grandparents have been away from home for so many years are very complicated. You will understand it when you grow up." Xiaowen asked, "Grandma and Grandpa, are you still leaving this time? Or live with us?" Shan Wanxue smiled and said, "Grandpa and Grandma are not leaving. I will live with you." Xiaowen said happily, "Great. Our house is lively again." The wolf cub couldn't help but come out and wander around twice to show that he was also a part of the family. After everyone got to know each other, they went to eat. After eating, Xia Huanhuan took Rong Zhenbang and Shan Wanxue to the wing in the room. The wing room is also a main room, with 2 wing rooms and a total of 3 rooms, which is the same as that of Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru. Over there, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru live in one bedroom, and Beibei lives in the other bedroom. Here, Xia Huanhuan has packed everything in advance. The bed covers are all new. There are wash basins, hot water bottles, electric fans, and coal stoves. However, the electric fans and coal stoves are currently in use. If not, they temporarily moved into the next room. Rong Zhenbang and Shan Wanxue looked at it and found that the conditions here were many times better than those they lived in at the Northwest Farm. The small shabby house in front of Beijing was also in the sky and on the ground. Even if you say it, don't be restrained. Rong Zhenbang and Shan Wanxue both agreed. Xia Huanhuan said again, "By the way, Mom, I have something else to show you." With that said, Xia Huanhuan kicked Li Zhan out. "You go out for a while." Li Zhan was stunned for a moment and couldn't help laughing. Does her daughter-in-law have any secrets that only she and Shan Wanxue know? However, he still went out obediently. Rong Zhenbang also smiled and went out together. Xia Huanhuan then took Shan Wanxue to the bedroom next door.
When Shen Wanxue saw the 3 familiar large camphorwood boxes, she immediately understood what Xia Huanhuan meant. They are the same as when Shen Wanxue saw them a few years ago. These 3 large camphorwood boxes are naturally the 3 boxes that Grandma Yao asked Xia Huanhuan to keep for Shen Wanxue. Xia Huanhuan was not sure about these boxes. Did Rong Zhenbang and Li Zhan know about it? As the custodian, Guotian Lixia, she naturally couldn't let Li Zhan know about it, so she sent them away and said softly, "Mom, these 3. The box can finally be returned to its original owner." Shen Wanxue nodded, looking at the box engraved with traces of time, and remembered that this was also her dowry box back then. Unexpectedly, more than 30 years had passed in a sudden. Shen Wanxue wiped her tears, said, "Huanhuan, please call your dad and Li Zhan in." After Xia Huanhuan heard this, he guessed that she probably didn't plan to hide it from Li Zhan anymore, so he went out and called the 2 of them back. Li Zhan couldn't help but leaned over her ear and asked, "What mysterious thing are you and Mom doing?" "Woolen cloth?" Entering the house, Li Zhan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw 3 octagonal silver-wrapped camphorwood boxes. He came here 2 days ago, and these 3 boxes were not in the house yet. However, he soon thought, okay, this must have been kept in the space by his wife. Rong Zhenbang obviously knew the existence of these 3 boxes, but he was still stunned. "Wanxue, why is this? This box here?" Shen Wanxue told Rong Zhenbang about the case where Grandma Yao entrusted the box to Xia Huanhuan before she died. After hearing this, Rong Zhenbang nodded and said, "That's it." Shen Wanxue then walked over and opened the 3 camphorwood boxes one by one with the keys. At first, Li Zhan thought it would be their clothes and some valuable things, but when he saw the contents clearly, he was also shocked. "I was speechless for a long time. I saw 3 camphorwood boxes. One was full of gold bars and small yellow croakers, the other was filled with jade, gold ornaments, etc., and the third was simply filled with bronzes, porcelain, calligraphy, and paintings. Just one item is priceless, let alone 3 large boxes of things." Shen Wanxue looked at Li Zhan and said, "Zhaner, Mom won't hide it from you. The things in this box are from our family of possessions. At that time, your father and I saw that something was wrong, so we packed the more valuable things in the house into these 3 large boxes and gave them to my former wet nurse, Grandma Yao, to help keep them." Grandma Yao's home was near Qingshui village. Later, when I went to the countryside, I also went there. This can be regarded as destiny. Shen Wanxue continued, "These things will be left to you in the future. There is only one thing, these gold bars and small yellow croakers. If the family has no money, it is okay to exchange them for money. But these utensils, calligraphy, paintings, etc. cannot be sold. These are priceless treasures left by our ancestors." Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, then came back to his senses and said with a smile, "Mom, what are you talking about? We have money. These things are all things left by the ancestors of your and Dad's 2 big families. You still keep them for yourself. If we are short of money, we can ask you for them." Xia Huanhuan also smiled and said, "Yes, Mom. We have enough money now. In addition to Li Zhan's allowance and the subsidy for my school, I am also running a small business, so the money is definitely enough." Shen Wanxue was stunned for a moment. She really wanted to give these things to her son. When Rong Zhenbang saw this, he smiled and said, "Wanxue, Li Zhan, and they refused to take it, so let's keep it first and wait for later. Give it to them again, and it will be the same." After hearing this, Shen Wanxue gave up and locked the box. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan came out of the side room and asked them to rest. After they came out, Li Zhan smiled and looked at Xia Huanhuan sideways and teased, "This means you have confessed everything and nothing is hidden from me?" Xia Huanhuan felt guilty for a moment, and then said confidently, "It is a matter of loyalty to others when entrusted by others. Even if Mom is your biological mother, but the things belong to them, and I will tell you without their consent, how is it appropriate? What if you are someone who loves money, and even your parents would do it for money?" Li Zhan approached her and said angrily, "Am I someone who loves money?" Xia Huanhuan stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Wasn't I just making an analogy?
Now that you know that you are the eldest young master, or the richest young master, how do you feel? Li Zhan gritted his teeth and said, how about assigning me? Let's see how I deal with you tonight. In the evening, Li Zhan took full advantage of the eldest young master's privileges and asked Xia Huanhuan to serve him like a little girl, making Xia Huanhuan unable to even speak a single sentence. Second, early in the morning, Li Zhan stewed snow pears with rock sugar himself, and diligently gave 2 bowls to Xia Shuangshan, Li Yuru, and Shen Wan, Shui Rongzhenbang, and then gave the rest to Xia Huanhuan, and asked Xiao when to serve some drinks to his brothers and sisters. By the way, I thought, our family is just like my father's family, let's find someone to come and help. Now that there are so many people in the family, my mother and your mother are not young anymore. There may be stores to look at later, and the master will come over in a while. For housework and cooking at home, it is better to find a young and strong person. It would be better if someone can help quickly. When he first came to Beijing, Xia Huanhuan also mentioned this matter to Lin Yuru. However, Lin Yuru didn't agree and said that she could handle it. Xia Huanhuan thought that cooking, washing clothes, etc. would be the same for herself and her 6 children. She could help. She secretly took the clothes to the space and washed them, leaving only a small amount to prevent Lin Yuru from suspecting. In addition, she was afraid that if someone came to help, Lin Yuru would be at a loss like Xia Shuangshan. So I didn't insist. However, it's different now. Shen Wanxue and Rongzhenbang are also living here, and Yang Qiushi is coming soon. Even Shen Wanxue and Rongzhenbang's family are really bigger. Neither Rongzhenbang nor Yang Qiushi would just sit and eat without helping. Just cooking would be tiring enough. In addition, after the conference this winter, her business would be about to begin. It's officially started. A food store in Beijing, and later she plans to open a clothing store, a restaurant in Maxian, Guangzhou Port City, and a clam farming base in Zhejiang Province.
Run.
She has to go to school, and with all these things, she may not have time to help the 6 kids. They are getting more and more busy with their studies, and it is impossible to do anything all the time. Moreover, Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan are getting older. She also thought that letting them look after the front room would be a way of making a living, so that they would not feel that they were not needed and would be at a loss. After thinking about it, it would be better to find a more suitable person to come and help.
Li Zhan listenat.
Also nodded and said, it is indeed time to find someone for help. But where can I find it? Xia Huanhuan had made a good plan and said, I'm talking to you personally, you can see if it works. Li Zhan heard this and said with a smile, have you thought about it all? Okay, tell me. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, aren't the children in our eldest sister's family quite old? I heard that the eldest daughter is already married, and the second daughter is 17 years old this year. She hasn't mentioned her husband's family yet. I've met her once, and she's not bad. Otherwise, let her come to our house to help, and we can give her 30 yuan a month. What do you think? Li Zhan's eldest sister is Li Zhaodi. It was Li Zhaodi who helped a lot when Li Zhan's life experience was revealed. After that, she and her relatives in the Li family recovered. In the past few years, although they have not been in person every year, she used to visit relatives, but she never missed the gifts from relatives and the New Year's money for her children. Xia Huanhuan would help them from time to time. However, she did not go too far to help the poor. At first, he gave Li Zhaodi 20 yuan to send his children to school. However, Li Zhaodi didn't know what he thought, so he didn't give it to him anymore. During the festival, the New Year's money given to the children was plentiful, 2 or 3 yuan each. Xia Huanhuan and Zhou Qiuhe went to Li Zhaodi's house once and met their second daughter, Chen Yan. Not good-looking but clean, a little shy but not dull, and very efficient at work. When she and Zhou Qiuhe were guests, Chen Yan helped pour water and took care of her younger brothers and sisters. He also helped wash vegetables, cook, and never had any free time. However, their third daughter was a bit lazy and kept doing everything. Xia Huanhuan had a good impression of this second daughter. One point, after all, she's your niece. She wants to call you uncle. Come and help us. If you can't handle it, then just pretend I didn't say it, and I'll look for someone else who has nothing to do with it. Li Zhan looked at her and said with a smile, I haven't said a word yet. You've already finished all your nonsense. Xia Huanhuan blinked and said with a smile, Then, do you agree or not? Li Zhan smiled and said, You have met someone, and if you think it's good, you can ask her to come over. Although our family has a larger population, it is still easier than doing farm work in the village. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, If you agree, I'll ask my third sister-in-law to help bring a message. Li Zhan nodded and said, Okay, you do it. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan discussed it and announced the matter the next day. Lin Yuru still objected and insisted on saying that she could still do it, but Xia Huanhuan rejected it. Mom, don't be anxious. When our braised vegetable restaurant opens, you and my father are going to visit the store. How can you take care of the work at home? Besides, we have all said hello to the eldest sister. The eldest sister is very happy. Now you ask me to go back to her. How embarrassing is that? After hearing this, Lin Yuru had no choice but to give up. Xia Huanhuan went to send a telegram to Zhou Qiuhe and asked her to help ask. However, she didn't let Zhou Qiuhe reveal too much about how much she would give per month, so she just said it was 1 month. 20 yuan. That's it. Li Zhaodi and her husband were overjoyed after hearing this. 20 yuan per month for urban workers may not be much, but it is the salary of a junior worker. 10 yuan might be enough money to earn by working hard for half a year, or even a year. In addition to the telegram, Xia Huanhuan also remitted the travel expenses, which was enough money to buy a hard bed. However, Li Zhaodi's county came to the capital, that is. After traveling for 4 or 5 hours, Li Zhaodi only bought a hard seat ticket. With half of the money she saved, she bought 2 kilograms of meat, baked meat pies, and cooked meat for the whole family. She saved the remaining few yuan. He got up. He also told his second daughter to send 15 yuan to his family when he made some money, so that he could support his younger brothers and sisters and marry his eldest brother. In those days, especially in rural areas, people still had more precious sons than daughters. It was very common for daughters to earn money for their sons to find wives. Although Li Zhaodi was not very educated, she was considered to be sold by her family back then. Yes, but when she comes to her place, the most she can do is not marry her daughter but ask for dowry for her son to get a wife. The fourth brother's place gives her 20 yuan a month, including food and accommodation. 5 yuan pocket money is actually much more reasonable than most other parents. After they were sent to the entrance of the village, Li Zhaodi felt somewhat sad when he saw his daughter leaving. He gave Chen Yan some fried pancakes and said, Yenner, you must listen to your fourth uncle and aunt when you go over there, and don't be stubborn, do you hear me? If you don't get used to it, you can come home again, do you hear me? Chen Yan is a sensible person. She wore an old green military jacket, coarse trousers, 2 pigtails, and her cheeks were rosy. She also wiped her tears and said, Mom, don't worry. When I got there, I listened to my fourth uncle and fourth aunt, saying that I would work hard and send money home to support my younger brothers and sisters. Zhou Qiuhe came to pick up Chen Yan and said with a smile, Sister, don't worry. Fourth brother and Huanhuan are not mean people. Chen Yan will definitely not be able to bear the injustice when she goes to Beijing. With that said, he took Chen Yan away. Zhou Qiuhe still works in the supply and marketing cooperative, while Li Jie found a temporary job in the lumber factory. However, he followed Luo Cheng and the others and learned to drive a large truck. It didn't take long for him to, because he helped the driver in the factory reverse the car. He was favored by the factory and wanted to make him a regular worker. However, Li Jie did not agree and still worked as a temporary worker, mainly because he still had work in Luocheng from time to time. Helping with transportation, sometimes it lasts for 10.5 months, which is the main business. The lumber factory is suitable for temporary workers. Last time, they said they were looking for a shop to do their own small business, but they had already bought the store. However, Maxin County is even more isolated than Beijing City. There are not many small traders and hawkers setting up stalls now, and they don't dare to open stores. Therefore, the storefronts are still empty. Xia Huanhuan's store is opening together. Zhou Qiuhe sent Chen Yan to the train station, bought her some food for the journey, and told her to be careful, saying that her fourth uncle and aunt would pick her up after arriving in Jingshi and then sent her to the train. After sitting for 4 or 5 hours, every time the train arrived at a station, Chun Yen pricked up her ears to listen to the conductor to tell her what station it was. She was not very literate, and if she didn't listen carefully, she couldn't understand the platform name outside. After finally hearing that they had arrived in Jingshi, Chun Yen began to feel uneasy again. She had never even been to the county town before, and the farthest she had been was to the town in spring to attend the temple fair. Jingshi, she had never even thought about it. She carried a small bag with a few changes of clothes and 2 yuan that Li Xiaodi stuffed into her, and got off the train with the crowd. The crowd pushed and shoved, and she hugged the bag tightly, feeling surprised and scared. This was the first time she had seen so many people. There were many more people than at the temple fair. With so many people, how would her fourth uncle and aunt find her? What if she got lost? What to do? Just when she was worried, suddenly a strange voice called out, "Chun Yen." Chun Yen was startled and hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice and saw a very beautiful woman and a tall man standing together. Chun Yen still remembered how beautiful her fourth aunt was, so she recognized Xia Huanhuan almost immediately. Li Zhan, on the other hand, had never seen her before. Chun Yen was excited and ran towards Xia Huanhuan through the crowd. When she got to her, she called out shyly, "Fourth uncle."
Aunt.
Fourth uncle. Li Zhan looked at the little girl in front of him with some curiosity and sighed in his heart. His wife knew his relatives better than he did. However, Li Zhan also understood that Xia Huanhuan was also trying to help his relatives. Otherwise, if he wanted to hire someone to help at home, he would just pay them money and dismiss them directly if they didn't do a good job, and he wouldn't be afraid of hurting the relationship for the sake of face. Seeing that she had grown taller than the last time they met, but her face hadn't changed much, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "You're so tall now. From now on, you should treat your fourth uncle and fourth aunt's home as your own home, and don't be restrained. Let's go home." Chun Yen's heart was half relieved. In her impression, in fact, because Xia Huanhuan was too beautiful and didn't look like a country girl at all, she was always a little afraid of Xia Huanhuan. On the contrary, her third aunt Zhou Qiuhe was much more friendly. Now, seeing that Xia Huanhuan was not arrogant at all, she was happy. Xia Huanhuan took her bag and gave it to Li Zhan. Chun Yen hurriedly said, "Fourth aunt, I'll take it myself." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Your fourth uncle is such a big man. Let him take it." Li Zhan also smiled and said, "It's okay, I'll take it." It was just noon. The three of them left the train station, but did not take the bus back immediately. Instead, Xia Huanhuan took her to a state-owned noodle restaurant. Chun Yen opened her mouth. She only had 2 yuan on her, and she heard that the food in the restaurant was very expensive. But she was afraid that her fourth uncle and aunt would laugh at her, so she had to bite the bullet and follow him in. "Boss, 3 bowls of noodles with soybean sauce and a plate of beef with soybean sauce." The shopkeeper agreed, and soon 3 bowls of noodles with soybean sauce and a plate of beef with soybean sauce came up. Chun Yen looked at the neatly arranged slices of beef with soybean sauce and couldn't help swallowing her saliva. The sauce for the noodles with soybean sauce was also mincemeat sauce, and each chewy noodle was covered with sauce. Take a bite, and your mouth is full of oily fragrance. Chun Yen felt sorry for spending so much money while she buried her head in eating noodles. She had never eaten such delicious noodles before. Seeing that she only ate noodles and not beef, Xia Huanhuan picked up 4 or 5 pieces of beef and put them in her bowl and said with a smile, "Eat beef. Pick it up yourself, don't be too reserved." Although she said so, she also knew that it was nonsense to tell such a young girl who had never traveled far not to be reserved. Chun Yen didn't dare not eat, and ate all the beef. Seeing this, Xia Huanhuan gave her a few more pieces, but she and Li Zhan didn't eat much. After eating the noodles, Chun Yen asked for her bag, then took out 2 yuan and secretly handed it to Xia Huanhuan.
"Fourth aunt, I
only have 2 yuan left. I ate a lot of beef. If 2 yuan is not enough, you can deduct it from the 20 yuan you are going to give me." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then felt sad and helpless. Li Zhan pushed the money back and said with a smile, "Chun Yen, Aren't you slapping your fourth uncle and aunt in the face? From now on, when you come to our house, your food, accommodation, and clothes will all be provided by your fourth uncle and aunt, so you don't have to spend any more money. Chun Yen was stunned for a moment, holding the 2 yuan in her hand, and still a little unbelieving. I don't have to pay? Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but pat her head and said with a smile, "Silly girl, of course not." As she said that, she called the waiter to come over to settle the bill. A bowl of noodles with soybean paste cost 50 cents, and the beef was 2 yuan, which was 3 yuan and a half in total. Chun Yen was shocked and still felt a little uneasy. This meal actually cost 3 yuan and a half.
Did she really not have to pay?
However, the 2 yuan was still in her hand. After the meal, Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan took her to the bus. The fare was 5 cents, which was also paid by Xia Huanhuan. When she arrived at the courtyard, Chun Yen was not too surprised. There are many families with yards in the countryside, but they are all rich families. It is normal for my fourth uncle and aunt to be rich and live in such a big yard. She didn't know that the location here is so big that even if there are 1,000 yards in the countryside, they can't compare to 1 yard here. Xia Huanhuan asked Chun Yen and Beibei to live in the wing room of Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru are also from the countryside, so Chun Yen will at least feel a little familiar psychologically and won't be too scared or restrained. After settling in, Chun Yen didn't wait for people to arrange it. When she saw the dirty clothes, she took a large basin, picked up the dirty clothes, went to the well, pressed water up, and started washing clothes. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile when she saw it. This child is quite discerning and has a lively look in her eyes. Lin Yuru saw it, walked over and said with a smile, "Hey, you just got here. Don't rush to work. Wait for 2 days to rest." Chun Yen raised her arm and touched her hair and said, "Grandma Lin, it's okay. I came to the city to work. I'm used to doing these things at home. It's not tiring." Lin Yuru heard it, and seeing that she couldn't stop her, she had to let her do it. She moved a small stool and came to wash with her, while asking her some questions when she was at home. Chun Yen was stunned when she saw that Lin Yuru actually washed with her. She came here to work. Why did Grandma Lin, who is the host, wash clothes with her? "Grandma Lin, I'll wash it. You take a rest." Lin Yuru smiled and said, "It's okay. I can't sit still either. Instead of taking a rest, you might as well let me do some work." Xia Huanhuan took out 3 chickens from the space, asked Li Zhan to kill them, boiled water and poured it on the chickens, plucked all the feathers, and then dealt with the internal organs. Chun Yen was stunned when she saw that 3 chickens were killed at home. When she was at home, it was a luxury to kill a chicken during the holidays. She was stunned for a while before she reacted. She hurriedly went to wash her hands, saying, "Fourth aunt, you leave it alone. I will pluck the chickens after I finish washing the clothes." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "You and your Grandma Lin can wash the clothes. Don't you have me and your fourth uncle? No need to help." Chun Yen was a little stunned. She heard from others that if she came to the city to help out and get paid, even though she was in the home of her fourth uncle and aunt, she would be similar to the maids in the opera, and she would have to take care of the daily life of the whole family. Aren't the jobs of washing clothes, cooking, and coaxing children hers? The master should treat them like young masters and young ladies, and if they don't work, they should just wait, right? How come it was that Grandma Lin did the laundry, but even her fourth uncle and aunt killed and cleaned the chickens themselves? Xia Huanhuan knew that she must have misunderstood, so she smiled and said, "There are so many people in our family, and they can all help with the work, but your Grandma Lin, Grandpa Xia, and Grandma Shin and Grandpa Rong in that room are all old, so we asked you to come and help. Don't worry, you are not asked to do all the housework." Li Zhan also smiled and said, "From now on, just think of this place as your home, and just help with the housework." Chun Yen was stunned for a moment, and felt warm in her heart. She nodded and said, "Yeah." In the evening, Xia Wen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the triplets were all picked up by Xia Shuangshan. Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wenxue went to the relevant departments to ask if they could find a job for them and came back. Xia Huanhuan introduced Chun Yen to everyone. After they got to know each other, Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru started to prepare dinner. Shun Wanshua also came over to help cut and cook vegetables. Now it was Beibei and the triplets who helped light the fire. The original kitchen of the Sihiyuan was not small, with a total of 3 stoves and 6 pots. Now I use 2 stoves and 4 pots, which are turned on at the same time. The front pot is used for cooking, and the back pot is used to boil water, and then add noodles or make porridge, hot steamed buns, etc. The chicken soup was sitting on the stove in a casserole and had been simmering all afternoon. Beibei and the 3 little guys took turns lighting the fire. While filling the firewood into the stove, they excitedly told the adults about interesting things at school. Xiao Wan and Xiao Wu were in their 2nd year of junior high school, and their studies were heavy, so they were not allowed to get involved in cooking and were asked to do homework and review their lessons. They are not used until it is ready and served to the table to carry the plates and rice. Chunyan was assigned tasks such as washing vegetables, but she wasn't tired at all anyway. Chunyan was still in a daze. She was given 20 yuan a month. Could it be that she wouldn't give it because she did too little work? However, she didn't dare to ask this, so she just worked quickly. Everyone worked together, and in about half an hour, the meal was ready. Stir-fried meat with garlic sprouts, stir-fried yellow beef with celery, tomatoes and eggs, stir-fried bacon with sour beans, mapo tofu, cold lotus root, garlic water spinach, and a pot of fresh mushroom and chicken soup. The staple food is corn grits, sweet potatoes, and white flour steamed buns. This large table of dishes was put on, with more meat and less vegetables. Chuanyan's eyes widened. 4th aunt, isn't this really a banquet? Why are there so many dishes here? Xia Huanhuan said with a smile. Our family has a large population. Even if we look at so many dishes, we can all eat them up. After hearing this, Chunyan was filled with envy. There are so many dishes in this meal, which is enough for her family to eat meat and vegetables for a year. Chunyan took her own bowl of soup, took half a steamed bun, put some tofu and lotus root water spinach in her bowl, and planned to go to the kitchen to eat. This was what her mother had told her, saying that she didn't come here to visit relatives, but to work, and she couldn't serve dinner without her discernment. This is also common in rural areas. When entertaining guests at home or during festivals, there is a custom in many places that women are not allowed to serve at the table. Her family was pretty good, and when they were all members of their own family, her parents would still let their girls' movies be served on the table. Xia Huanhuan saw Chunyan carrying the rice and was about to walk out. She was stunned for a moment and called her out. We are eating. Where are you going? Chunyan said uneasily. I'll go to the kitchen to eat. Xia Huanhuan said with a smile. Why are you going to the kitchen to eat? We all eat at the table at home. You sit next to Beibei. Chunyan was stunned for a moment. Then she sat down with a blushing face. But my heart is happy. 4th aunt is so kind. Everyone chatted while eating. Xia Huanhuan didn't have such a big rule when it came to eating and sleeping, as long as he wasn't picky about his food. Chunyan didn't say anything, just listened shyly. However, she also has some small problems, that is, she chews her mouth when eating. However, no one said anything. Unbeknownst to her, Beibei secretly said to her when she was sleeping at night, Sister Chunyan, let me tell you something. Don't be angry. You will eat later. When you are here, change your habit of chirping. This is not the way we eat here. No one will laugh at you at home, but you will be laughed at outside. Chunyan was a 17 or 18-year-old girl, and her face had already turned red after being told by Beibei. However, she was shy and gentle by nature, and after being embarrassed for a while, she went over and asked, Beibei, tell your cousin how to change this? And what else should I pay attention to in the city? My cousin just came here and doesn't know anything. Tell me, I will pay attention to it in the future. Beibei listened and told Chunyan about washing her face and brushing her teeth in the morning and evening, washing her feet at night, taking a bath every day in summer and once a week in winter, and going to the big bathhouse to wash. Chunyan listened carefully but didn't remember everything, so she nodded and said, Okay. Then I will learn from you, from tomorrow. After talking for a while, Beibei took out his book to do his homework. Chunyan looked at Beibei writing in pencil on the homework book with some envy. She remembered that a few years ago,
Her fourth aunt had sent money to her mother to send them to learn to read, but her mother was reluctant to spend the money, so she sent her eldest and second brothers instead. Until now, she can't even write her own name. She is blind. She didn't dare to disturb Bebe, so she went to bed first. After Chen Yan settled down, Xia Huanhuan was able to spare more time to go to school and sell clothes. After selling 20 sets of jeans and sweaters last time, she didn't go out to the stall again, and finally went out to the stall again these 2 days. As soon as she arrived at the place, she immediately shouted again, "Here you are! What a coincidence today! The jean seller is here." Xia Huanhuan was so scared that she almost thought that the security guards came to block her. But fortunately, it was a customer. Several young girls came over at once, touching several sample pants and sweaters, and said with a smile, "I'm glad someone in our factory is wearing them. I asked, and they said they bought them here. I come here every day, but I can't find them. Today I finally found them. Is the price of this clothing the same as a few days ago? A set of sweaters and jeans is 20 yuan? Xia Huanhuan didn't expect that she only came to sell once, and it actually attracted customers to stay here, so she smiled and said, "Yes. It's still the same price. Which sweater pattern do you like? Just pick it." The girl picked a blue plaid sweater and a pair of jeans and paid generously. "Here. 20.
Xia Huanhuan smiled. "Okay."
"This is brand new. Take a look." After the girl bought first, the other girls also rushed to pay. However, they all bought single pieces, so the price was not much more expensive if 2 people competed. 3 sets were sold in this wave, and the profit was 18 yuan.
However, it was not easy to sell later that day.
The sweater was okay, but the jeans were too avant-garde and novel. No one had seen them before, so only young girls would wear them. Moreover, I sold 20 pieces last time. Although there was a gap of several days between the two, 10 or 20 yuan per piece of clothing was not cheap. Therefore, I sold 3 more sets in the rest of the day, a total of 6 sets, with a profit of 36 yuan. Xia Huanhuan was not in a hurry.
She thought it was about time.
Then she closed the stall. She thought about it and decided that it might be the wrong place. Many people who come to the black market to buy things are housewives or men, and what they buy is practical. If the target audience of this clothing is young people, then it is not right to set up a stall in the black market. She thought about it and planned to change the place to set up the stall later. She found 2 good places. One is the entrance of the Beijing Art Troupe, and the other is near Beijing University. The members of the Beijing Art Troupe are all sensitive to fashion. As for Beijing University, the second batch of students after the resumption of the college entrance examination have already enrolled. Among this batch of students, the proportion of young students has increased significantly. They have no burden, and they also receive subsidies from the school every month. More importantly, their acceptance is also relatively high. However, it is okay near the art troupe. She can go there in person, but at the entrance of Beijing University, she is a student of Beijing University after all. If she is caught by someone and someone reports her for not doing her job properly, it will be a bad thing. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and decided to split up into 2 groups. She would sell near the art troupe herself and find someone to sell near more famous universities. But who to find is also a problem. Da He and his men basically hang out in the black market alleys. If they are asked to go near the university, apart from other things, their temperaments are not suitable. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and suddenly remembered Yu Siju. Yu Siju originally studied medicine, but she preferred nursing. After returning to the city, she has not yet arranged a job. Fu Nanzheng is a doctor. It is not difficult to apply for a nurse quota for the family in the hospital, but it will take several months. Therefore, Yu Siju is now unemployed at home and has no job. However, she quickly rejected this idea. Fu Nanzheng and Yu Siju have already obtained the marriage certificate, and the wedding is scheduled to be held in October, which is coming soon. It is too inappropriate for her to drag the bride to sell clothes. After thinking about it again, Xia Huanhuan decided to ask Qi Ningyu for help. After almost a year of contact, she still trusts the character and personality of the Qi family. Qi Ningyu will not go to high school, and she is good at arithmetic and literacy. After going to Qi's house and telling Qi's father about the matter, Chi's father looked at his daughter and asked, You decide on this matter yourself. Are you willing to work with your sister Huan? Chi Ningyu admired Xia Huan very much, so although she was a little shy, she nodded firmly and said, Dad, Sister Huan, I'm willing to do it.
Xia Huan smiled and said, Okay.
I'll tell you the specific place to set up the stall when the time comes. It's not difficult. In terms of profit distribution, Xia Huan directly split it 50-50. The profit of one set was 6 yuan, she took 3 yuan and the remaining 3 yuan was Chi Ningyu's. If it was sold individually, the profit of each piece was 4 yuan and she took 2 yuan. After all, she was not doing charity, so she still had to take what she should take. After this matter was settled, Xia Huan left Chi Ningyu 10 sets of goods, asking her to try selling them first, without having to feel psychologically burdened, and return them to her if they couldn't be sold. In addition, she also gave Chi Ningyu a set of clothes and said with a smile, When you sell goods, put on this set, and someone will definitely come to buy it immediately. Chi Ningyu wanted to pay, but Xia Huan refused and said with a smile, This can also be regarded as one of the investments. I have already counted it as the cost. The next day, Chi Ningyu really went to the place that Xia Huan had already selected in advance. However, she was shy and stood for a long time without daring to sell. It was Xia Huan who deliberately went over and asked loudly where she bought the clothes on her body, which attracted the attention of several girls. When Chi Ningyu saw Xia Huan, she was shocked and quickly took out the clothes in the bag and said, It's new goods from Guangshi. Look, there are other colors too. Several girls also came over, took a look and asked with love, This is pretty good looking. How much is it? Xia Huan blinked at Chi Ningyu, which was considered to be an encouragement to her. Chi Ningyu took a deep breath and said, This pair of jeans is 10 yuan, and this sweater is 12 yuan. If you want both, just give 20 yuan. If you can't get both, you can compete with your classmates. The girl looked at her companion after hearing this.
This is really not cheap.
Their monthly allowance is only 20 yuan, and they have to save money for food and books. It is really hard to spend more than 10 or 20 yuan to buy clothes. I think I have seen these pants in the foreign magazines in the library. They are called jeans. I have always wanted to buy them, but I have been looking around Beijing and can't find them. A girl said enviously. The other girl gritted her teeth and said, How about we each buy one pair? At most, I'll have to work harder for the next half month, or ask my family for some. The first girl thought for a moment and said, Okay. We both want jeans. Can you give each of us a discount of $1? Chi Ningyu nodded quickly and said with a smile, Yes. As long as it's 2 pairs, it can be discounted by $2. The 2 girls said, Then wait for us for a while. We'll go to the dormitory to get the money and come back soon. With that, they left. In addition to these 2 girls, other female classmates were also attracted, so Xia Huan quietly walked away. Others who came to see the jeans also had the courage to bargain with Chi Ningyu. However, Chi Ningyu didn't agree and said it was the lowest price. This is what Xia Huan told her. Now there is only one store in Beijing that sells jeans. Scarcity makes things expensive. What is sold is expensive and rare. Don't look at the price. If it is too cheap, some people will not even bother to buy it. The purpose of their purchase is to be able to show off. The more expensive it is, the more proud they are. This is what we call positioning the target customers. There are products and selling methods that can achieve small profits but quick turnover, but in the current environment, it is obviously not suitable for products that sell in large quantities. This time, Xia Huan positioned the jeans to be high-priced. Moreover, if you allow bargaining, if everyone asks, I bought $1.50 more than you, the money is not much, but I will definitely feel unbalanced if I buy more expensively. I'm afraid they won't patronize you again. So, I'd rather not bargain, and mark the price clearly at the beginning. Everyone will be calm and feel at ease when they see that the price is the same. Some people left when they couldn't bargain. However, there are still many people who couldn't let go and looked at it again and finally paid for it. When the first 2 girls came over, Chi Ningyu had already sold 5 pairs of jeans. After the 2 girls took the jeans and left, there were only 3 pairs of jeans left. There are still 5 sweaters left.
This is the opposite of the black market. The black market focuses on practicality. Although the machine-knitted sweaters are soft and beautiful in color, they are more popular. On the contrary, jeans are tight-fitting. It is not convenient to wear them to do work, so they're not selling well. Students in Beijing focus on fashion and being different. No matter how beautiful the sweater is, you can buy some wool and knit it yourself. Jeans are different. No matter how capable you are, you may not be able to buy this fabric and the metal decorative buttons on the clothes even if you go to department stores all over the country. So even if you want to make it, you can't. You really can only buy ready-made ones. Qi Ningyu's confidence increased greatly, and he dared to shout. By the afternoon, the remaining 3 pairs of jeans were sold out. There were also 1 or 2 who left after failing to bargain at the beginning and then came back to buy. When they saw that they were all sold out, they regretted it and pulled Qi Ningyu to ask if there were any more. Qi Ningyu hesitated and said, "I have to ask."
I don't know yet.
The 2 girls looked expectant and said, "Will you come here to set up a stall tomorrow? Will you come early tomorrow morning? We will come early tomorrow morning to buy, okay?" Qi Ningyu looked at their eager eyes and was too embarrassed to refuse, so he said, I will try my best." Xia Huanhuan passed by after class and saw that Qi Ningyu had gone home, so she knew that the sales should be good. Before she went back, she went to Qi's house first. Qi Ningyu gave all the money she earned today to Xia Huanhuan. "Sister Huanhuan, all the jeans are sold out. There are still 3 sweaters left. Here is the money, a total of 167 yuan. Xia Huanhuan didn't count all the money, but counted out 26 yuan from the money and handed it to Qi Ningyu, smiling and saying, "It seems that today is a good start. These 26 yuan are your share." Qi Ningyu's face was flushed, and it was obvious that he was still very excited, and there was no sense of reality. Just now, she had 167 yuan in her hand. And not all of them were big unity notes, but 1 or 2 yuan notes, which she stuffed into a cloth bag and counted after she came back. There were a lot of big and small notes on the table. Now, seeing the 26 yuan, there were 2 big unity notes, 2 2-yuan notes, and 2 1-yuan notes. Qi Ningyu quickly pushed it back and said, "Sister Huanhuan, I can't take this money. I didn't help. College students like this, so it sells well." Xia Huanhuan stuffed the money into her pocket and said with a smile, "Didn't we agree on this? Who would not admit the debt after making money?
Take it.
Otherwise, I won't dare to ask you for help later." Qi Jian also said at this time, "Ningyu, your sister, Huanhuan asked you to take it, so just take it. In the future, follow your sister, Huanhuan, and learn well. Do you hear me?" Qi Jian said while examining Xia Huanhuan. "I didn't realize that this little girl has a good business mind." Qi Ningyu had just told him how Xia Huanhuan taught her to respond to customers and why she was not allowed to lower the price. Qi Jian had opened a restaurant before. A restaurant is not a tea house, so there are some barriers to entry, and the food and drinks are expensive. But no matter how few customers there are, he will not lower the price, and the reason is the same. The grade is like the price. Once it drops, it will be difficult to raise it again. Therefore, he couldn't help but secretly praise Xia Huanhuan. Seeing that her father had also spoken, Qi Ningyu had no choice but to take it with trembling hands and asked shyly, "Sister Huanhuan, can you give me some more jeans tomorrow? There are some that I didn't buy today, and they said they want to buy them tomorrow." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Why not? However, I will give you 5 pairs tomorrow, and as for the sweaters, I will give you the 3 remaining ones today, and you can continue to sell them." Qi Ningyu said, "Sister Huanhuan, I see that many people like these jeans. Aren't 5 pairs a bit too few?" Before Xia Huanhuan spoke, Qi Jian had already said, "Ningyu, listen to your sister Huanhuan." Qi Jian had already understood that Xia Huanhuan was planning to create scarcity artificially. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but glance at Qi Jian. The old man was still the best. It seemed that her intentions had not been hidden from the old expert. What she was thinking of was hunger marketing. Stop selling at the university for a few days, and when you go to sell them, those who were originally undecided will regret it in these few days, and they will definitely not hesitate anymore. After checking Qi Jian's pulse again, Xia Huanhuan left. The next day, Yu took another 5 pairs of jeans and 3 sweaters. The 2 girls who said they wanted to buy yesterday really came to buy them early in the morning and left happily. The remaining 3 pairs of jeans and 3 sweaters were sold in a short time. Even so, there were still several people who hesitated and didn't rush to buy. When they saw that there was no stock left, they pulled Yu to ask, "It's gone. Why are there so few today?" Yu followed Xia Huanhuan's instructions and smiled. "These are originally for export abroad, so the number is small. If you want them, you may have to wait a few more days." The person who asked the question was frustrated and had to remind her, "Then next time you come, remember to leave 2 for us." During the days when Yu stopped selling, Xia Huanhuan also set up a stall at the entrance of the art troupe when she had no classes. It's easier to sell here than in college. First, the salary of the actors in the art troupe is higher than the subsidies for college students. In addition, the actors are generally good-looking, and their pursuit of beauty is a little more. Sometimes they would rather starve than buy clothes and shoes. Therefore, she took 20 pairs of jeans and 10 sweaters to sell. In just half a day, she had sold most of them. However, the number of people in the art troupe is limited after all, and 20 sets is almost the limit. Xia Huanhuan was not worried. After several times, she sold about 60 pairs of jeans and basically cleared out the sweaters. Excluding the ones Xia Huanhuan kept for her family, 1 for Yu, 1 for Jiangwan and Yusiju, 1 for Chenlu, 1 for Zhou Qiuhe sent to Mo County, and 1 for Chunyan, there were 7 pairs of jeans left. There were a total of 30 pairs of jeans left, which was not a big problem. Xia Huanhuan did not go to the stall to sell them herself, and asked Yu to do it. It was not just the ones around Peking University but also around Tsinghua University and other colleges. Xia Huanhuan had checked the places in advance and asked Yu to set up the stall. In just a few days, they were all sold out. In the end, she calculated that out of the 100 pairs of jeans and 50 sweaters, excluding the 10 pieces she gave away, half of the remaining ones were sold by her, with a profit of 3 yuan per piece, and the other half were sold by Yu, with a profit of 1.5 yuan. In total, it was a net profit of nearly 300 yuan. Although it was not much, it actually took her only half a month from the time she received the goods to the time she finished the purchase, but she earned half a year's salary for others, which was already a huge profit. Yu also made about 100 yuan. Looking at the money on the table, Yu and Jian were a little speechless. "Dad, I have never seen so much money in my life. Selling clothes is so profitable. Sister Huanhuan is so amazing." Jian has seen people with big money, but seeing Xia Huanhuan, a young woman, can make so much in just half a month.
The key.
She has no relationship with the Qi family. She just bought the Qi family storefront, but she is willing to let Yu follow her to make so much money. Her mind and pattern are first class. Jian secretly admired and once again reminded his daughter, "Ningyu, you will be relieved if you follow Sister Huanhuan to learn well in the future." Yu said, "Dad, don't worry. I will definitely listen to Sister Huanhuan." After this batch of clothes was sold, Xia Huanhuan considered going to Guangzhou again to buy more goods. However, it is not cold in Guangzhou in winter, so it is hard to buy thick cotton clothes for winter. The sweater I bought last time was okay, and everyone wears it in autumn and winter. Tight jeans are not so good in winter, and you can't wear long johns inside. No matter how fashionable you are, Beijing in winter is not a joke. Xia Huanhuan wanted to take the opportunity to go to the northeast, where the fur and mountain products are very famous, and she could go and have a look. She also had to make arrangements for clothing stores early. October soon arrived. Fu Nanjing and Yu Siju's wedding was about to take place. Because Yu Siju's parents had not returned to the city, Yu Siju's relatives were not notified. Some people who heard that she married into the Fu family and had drawn a clear line before wanted to get close to them, but were directly rejected by Yu Siju. On the Fu family side, Fu Nanjing originally planned to hold a big wedding with 7 or 8 tables at a state-owned restaurant, but Yu Siju stopped him from agreeing. "I know you don't want me to be wronged. However, I don't want to make it too ostentatious, so I'd better invite my family and your close friends to have a meal." Fu Nanjing had to give up after hearing this. However, even so, there were 3 or 5 tables of guests. In the end, the tables were set up in the courtyard that the Fu family was going to take back. The chef of the state-owned restaurant was specially invited to come with several apprentices to cook, and the ingredients were purchased by themselves at the market. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I can't help with anything else. As for the ingredients, leave it to me and Li Zhan. Let's go to the market to purchase them. The Fu family really can't find anyone who can do this now. When the eldest brother and the second brother of the Fu family get married, they will definitely come back. However, it is impossible to come back many days in advance to help with these things. There is no woman in the family, only Aunt Chen, but that is also for daily life. She can't take responsibility for what dishes to cook and what ingredients to buy for the banquet." Fu Weixin and Mr. Fu nodded and gave Xia Huanhuan 500 yuan to let her buy it. Xia Huanhuan pushed back 200 yuan and said with a smile, "Dad, Grandpa, 300 yuan should be enough. If it's still not enough, I'll ask you for more." Fu Weixin said firmly, "You take it. You have so many people over there, and now your parents-in-law have returned. Work hasn't resumed yet, and they need money everywhere. If you have extra money, you can buy some cotton-padded clothes for the children as winter is coming soon." Old Master Fu also said, "Your father is right. If you really have extra money, just think of it as giving it to the kids at home, not to you. You are not allowed to refuse." After hearing what the two said, Xia Huanhuan had no choice but to accept it. As for the ingredients, she probably had them all in her space, and the quality would definitely not be worse than what she bought in the market. The only problem was to determine which ingredients were needed. This required asking the chef of the restaurant to be invited for the menu. The chef quickly asked his apprentice to send the menu of the banquet and the types of ingredients that needed to be purchased. Xia Huanhuan opened the list and took a look. There were quite a few things she wanted. Autumn and winter are the time to eat beef and mutton. The first item on the list was 2 top-quality beach sheep. If they were not cooked, they would be slaughtered in the market and delivered on the morning of the banquet. She didn't want live beef, but she wanted the kind that was slaughtered in the market, 30 catties. She wanted 6 pork elbows, 20 catties of pork belly, and 10 catties of bacon and chicken. She wanted 6 mandarin fish, 6 crucian carp and other carps, 10 catties of small fish, shrimps and shellfish, 20 catties of large shrimps, and 20 catties of. She wanted 6 old hens, 6 tender chickens, and 100 eggs. 6 ducks were also ordered. Vegetarian dishes such as radish, Chinese cabbage, celery, spinach, bean sprouts, tofu, bean curd skin, mushrooms, black fungus, winter bamboo shoots, lily, green, and red peppers, etc. were also ordered, ranging from 10 to 20 kilograms. Other ingredients included flour, glutinous rice flour, red dates, peanuts, rice cakes, red beans, longans, lotus seeds, apples, pears, white fungus, rock sugar, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and other auxiliary materials. The best fruit wood and firewood were also ordered, presumably for roasting duck. In addition, Xia Huanhuan also prepared white wine, Arctic Ocean soda for the female guests and children, and wedding candy and melon seeds before the banquet. Xia Huanhuan took a general look and was not in a hurry to prepare them. On the morning of the wedding, she and Li Zhan went to the courtyard over there in advance and took out all these things from the space. The 2 sheep were naturally alive and tied in the yard outside the kitchen. There are other chickens, ducks, fish, etc., all of which are fresh and kept in cages or basins in the yard. The kitchen here is in the backyard, and the banquet is in the front yard, separated by a wall. When the dishes are served, they go through the corner door next to them, and they don't interfere with each other. It's a bit messy, but it doesn't interfere. The chef's apprentices came in a short while later and did some preparations first. When the preparations are almost done, the chef will come in. The apprentices counted the things Xia Huanhuan prepared and checked the freshness, and they were surprised. "Big sister, where do you buy these ingredients? This is fresher than the ingredients delivered to our restaurant before dawn every day. It's picked from the vegetable fields. The meat is also freshly killed." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I also went to the countryside outside the city to ask people, and asked them to pick it in the middle of the night and send it overnight. The meat is also from the slaughterhouse, and the farm has made an appointment with people in advance. At that moment, the apprentices began to kill chickens and sheep, and they were very busy. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan did not follow here to watch, but went to Yu Siju's house. Although the judgment of Yu's parents had not been officially made, they had relaxed a lot, so Fu Nanjing took the two of them over this time. Seeing Xia Huanhuan coming, Yu's parents smiled and said, "Siju is in the room. You can go in and find her." Yu Siju had already put on light makeup, her hair was, and a red velvet flower was inserted on one side. She was also wearing a bright red Cheongsam modified skirt, which modified her exquisite waist. There was also a bridal velvet flower on her chest. Seeing Xia Huanhuan, Yu Siju smiled and pulled her, saying, "Huanhuan, I'm so nervous." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Third sister-in-law, don't be nervous. Besides, haven't we already practiced on the island?" Yu Siju couldn't help but blush when she heard it. "I'm so nervous, and you're still teasing me." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this. I brought you some snacks. You can eat them first. I'm afraid you don't have much time to eat today." As she said this, she opened a basket, in which lay several exquisite mung bean cakes and rose pastries, as well as a bowl of yogurt with raisins, candied plums, etc. The green mung bean cakes, the rose pastries wrapped in pastry, and the milky white yogurt, just looking at them made people hungry. Yu Siju was not polite either. She ate 2 pieces of cakes first, and then ate the yogurt in small bites. Seeing that her lipstick was smudged, Xia Huanhuan helped her touch up her makeup. After waiting nervously and anxiously until 8 or 9 in the morning, there was a sound from outside. Then Fu Nanjing came to pick up the bride in a Zhongshan suit with a red velvet flower on his chest. The Yu family doesn't have many relatives and friends to visit now, so the noisy part about blocking the door and not letting him was omitted. Xia Huanhuan took Yu Siju's hand and came out of the inner room, and then stepped aside. Yu Siju first looked at Fu Nanjing with a blushing face, and then lowered her head shyly. "Hold one. Hug one." Fu Nanjing's friends and colleagues who came to pick up the bride started to make a fuss. Fu Nanjing laughed and did not hesitate. He picked up the person and walked towards the car parked in the alley outside. The car was the jeep allocated to Fu Weixin. No one could say anything about using it to pick up his son's daughter-in-law when he got married. The jeep started, and there was also a small truck with a back bucket, which was naturally prepared by Luo Cheng. On the small truck were bedding, new floral quilts, wash basins, wash basin racks, thermoses, as well as sewing machines, bicycles, electric fans, and other dowries. Someone was on the truck, and when they saw people along the way, they would scatter some peanuts and wedding candies. Most of these were also selected by Xia Huanhuan and Yu Siju. Naturally, there were other people to entertain the father-in-law and mother-in-law, and they were sent to the Fu family courtyard. After picking up the bride, they arrived at the courtyard. There were a total of 6 tables set up in the main house and wing rooms in the yard, and the guests had already taken their seats one after another. The wedding ceremony was held near noon. The bride and groom kowtowed to Mr. Fu and Fu Weixin respectively, and then they introduced themselves to the eldest brother, the second brother, Xia Huanhuan, and others of the Fu family symbolically, and then the feast officially began. In the backyard, 2 sheep had been butchered and separated according to different parts. 3 or 4 large pots and 2 large steamers were all on fire at the same time. In addition, there was a special grill, which was managed by a special person and used the best fruit wood to grill the 6 big fat ducks. The cold dishes were served first, such as cold lotus root, cold celery and black fungus, cold stewed pork, braised beef in soy sauce, etc. Then came the hot pot. Hot dishes were served one after another, including 4 happiness meatballs, stir-fried meat with mushrooms, steamed prawns, stir-fried lamb tripe with green peppers, pickled beans and lamb offal, stir-fried seasonal vegetables, etc. Then there was a hot and sour soup, a squirrel mandarin fish, a duck blood and spinach soup, a pork elbow, or braised pork with square meat, and then the main dishes were served in turn. The finale this time was the lamb and the fruit wood roasted duck, which were placed at the end. After the main dishes were finished, the dishes were changed, and desserts and sweet soups were served. There were two desserts. One was steamed glutinous rice, red dates and cashews, mixed with white sugar, which was extremely sweet. Another dish was fried red bean crisps, with red beans soaked in honey wrapped in golden dough. There were also two sweet soups. One was stewed pears with rock sugar, and the other was a sweet soup made with apple slices, lily, red dates, lotus seeds, and longans. After drinking the sweet soup, the wedding banquet was considered to be a complete success. The chefs of state-owned restaurants have first-class skills. Xia Huanhuan picked up the roast duck, dipped it in a special sweet noodle sauce with cucumber and green onion shreds, and wrapped it in a thin pancake. When she put it in her mouth, it immediately left a lingering fragrance on her teeth and cheeks. It was not much different from the one sold at Quanjude. Fu Nanjing and Yu Siju toasted at each table. They were really busy at this party. Xia Huanhuan brought all 6 children from home. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were relatively quiet. The triplets were so happy that after eating for a while, they ran to play with Yuan Chaoheping and the other children brought by the guests. At 2 or 3 in the afternoon, Fu Nanjing and Yu Siju came out to see the guests off. As a relative of the groom, Xia Huanhuan had to stay to finish the things, so she stayed with Li Zhan and asked Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei to take the triplets home first. The hotel chef was very satisfied with the banquet he prepared. However, he also knew that he could finish so many dishes so easily in a few hours. Firstly, he and his apprentices were not good at cooking, but more importantly, the ingredients were ready. In addition to the remuneration agreed in advance, the Fu family also prepared red envelopes. Xia Huanhuan came over and stuffed the red envelopes into the chef and his apprentices, while seeing them off. The chef couldn't help asking, "Sister, which markets did you order all these ingredients from? They are so fresh. And this Ningxia beach sheep is not so easy to order. Even for our restaurant, we have to order it 1 or 2 months in advance." His apprentice also echoed, "Master, I noticed it when I came here this morning. There are water droplets on the leaves." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "It's because someone I know asked me to help get the freshest and best ingredients." The chef could tell that Xia Huanhuan didn't want to reveal anything, so he didn't ask any more questions and said, "Well, we at Hongxingju are going to entertain some very important guests in a few days. Sister, ask your acquaintances if they are willing to provide us with ingredients. Money is not a problem. We will definitely get a better price than what they get at the market." Xia Huanhuan's heart moved, but she didn't agree immediately, so she smiled and said, "Okay. I'll ask them what they mean. I will reply to you, Master, then." The chef said, "Then if you want to help Hongxing Bureau, just ask Chef Wu." After the matter was settled, Chef Wu took his apprentices back. Here, the Fu family also found a few people to help clean, wash the dishes, and put away the dishes. Li Zhan helped put away the tables and stools. After Xia Huanhuan saw that there was nothing wrong with the finish, she went back with Li Zhan. Fu Nanjing came over to take a look. Originally, there was an extra table of food, but now Fu Nanjing took the lead. It was given to Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan, and Fu Nanjing took the remaining leg of lamb back, as well as the pork knuckle, roast duck, roast chicken, etc. prepared by the chef. Xia Huanhuan thought that Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru, as well as Shanwan Xue, Rong Zhenbang, and Chen Yan, were not here to have a meal, and it would be a good time for them to take it back, so Xia Huanhuan did not refuse. Things in the Northeast. I'm thinking of going to the Northeast this winter vacation. Li Zhan was stunned for a moment. Going to the Northeast? It's so cold over there. What are you doing there in the winter? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Go and have a look. Also, aren't the furs, medicinal materials, and hazelnuts over there famous? I want to go see it." Li Zhan looked at her and said with a smile, "That's okay. If you want to go, I'll go with you." Xia Huanhuan held his arm and said with a smile, "Li Zhan, I knew you had to come with me." Actually, Xia Huanhuan has another idea, which is to go there to see the trading environment with Lao Maozi, the neighboring country to the north. Lao Maozi has developed heavy industry but not light industry, and the natural environment is harsh. Therefore, it is possible to bring domestic he sold light industrial products to Lao Maozi and bought heavy industrial waste products from there, such as steel. This began to increase after the domestic light industry developed in the 1990s, so Xia Huanhuan knew the future direction. They wanted to start before others. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan returned to the courtyard and put all the things they had brought back into the kitchen to heat up the dishes and eat them around the table these days. Almost every meal had meat, and all they ate were multigrain steamed buns or white flour steamed buns. She looked much better, and her face became rosier. Looking at the delicious food on the table, she couldn't help but ask, "Fourth aunt, how much does it cost for so much meat?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Why do you worry about money? You can eat whatever is eaten at home, and just be cautious." Chunyan's face turned red and she said, "Hey." The next day, Xia Huanhuan took out the mutton leg and stewed the radish and mutton soup. The mutton was taken out and cut into pieces, and the mutton soup was used next. Chef Wu said that he wanted ingredients, but Xia Huanhuan felt that he couldn't stir it up. To save face, he agreed. Chef Wu made a list on the spot and asked Xia Huanhuan to deliver it the next morning. On the day of delivery, Xia Huanhuan took the things out of the space in the morning and asked Xia Shuangshan to ride on the board. Chef Wu, as apprentice, inspected the goods and gave Xia Huanhuan the 300 yuan for the ingredients. However, Xia Huanhuan thought about it and refused. With so many ingredients in her space, it would be easiest to start with the catering and restaurant industry. Now she would supply her unique ingredients to other restaurants for some money. Isn't this making enemies for themselves? After the wedding, Fu Nanjing and Yu Siju decided to live in the small courtyard house assigned to Fu Nanjing. Finally decided to rent it out first. However, the Fu family is not short of money, so people pay attention to it. The most important thing is to have tenants with better character. Yu Siju's job was finally solved and he worked as a nurse in the hospital. However, it had been a long time since she had worked in her old profession, and she was under great pressure, so she went to the bookstore to buy relevant books and watched the late-night supplement every day. Every time, Fu Nanjing had to forcefully carry him to bed before he would put down the book. At the end of October, Xia Huanhuan finally found a suitable store to sell clothes. It was on Wang Fujing Street. The location was good, so the price was also expensive. It cost 3,000 yuan to buy it. Xia Huanhuan didn't hesitate and paid directly. In this kind of location, if you buy it for 3,000 yuan, you will actually make money. It is estimated that the price will double in less than 5 years. In mid-October, Xia Huanhuan went to Guangshi again, bringing some fruits and nourishing Chinese medicine for Aunt Li. This time, Manager Li was not as reluctant as the first time. He quickly reported it to the factory, then took the decision and gave Xia Huanhuan another 100 sweaters and 100 pairs of jeans. Xia Huanhuan also liked the thick woolen coat, and Manager Li graciously agreed. The cost of a coat is only 15, which is not cheap. Xia Huanhuan thought that she couldn't wear it in winter, so she ordered 20 pieces. Xia Huanhuan searched for the thick cotton-padded clothes she wanted in several state-owned garment factories in Guangzhou, but there was nothing particularly thick. After all, Guangzhou is in the south, and there is no market for thick cotton-padded clothes. If we really cater to the domestic market and start producing thick padded clothes, we have to wait until this year when the market is completely liberalized. Xia Huanhuan had no choice but to give up. However, when she came this time, she used a public phone to contact Chen Rongxing, whom she had met in the summer. It was also a coincidence that Chen Rongxing happened to be attending the Canton Fair in Guangzhou. Xia Huanhuan made an appointment with him to meet at the Canton Fair. The Canton Fair here in Guangzhou is an import and export commodities trade fair. It has been held since 1957 and is held once a year. Domestic products are displayed to foreign businessmen at the meeting to promote cooperation. However, in the past 10 years, the products displayed at the conference are actually very limited. The situation this year is much better than in previous years, and there are many new products on display in various places. Xia Huanhuan took a look around and found that silk, tea, and other traditional items were most favored by foreign businessmen. However, Xia Huanhuan was the only one in Fujian province to display marine pearls, so she stopped for a moment. There was a man from Hong Kong who was obviously very interested in pearls and asked whether they were cultured or wild, and how old they were. However, the translation is a bit unreliable, and it seems like a chicken talking to a duck for a long time. The foreign businessman lost patience, shook his head, and wanted to leave.
Xia Huanhuan stepped forward and asked in English skillfully, "Sir, do you want to buy pearls?" The foreign businessman did not expect that Xia Huanhuan's English was so proficient, and he had no accent at all. He immediately said happily, "Yes. I am Robert Smith. Our company is a well-known luxury goods company. We want to purchase a batch of beautiful pearls to complete the decoration of newly designed women's bags, handbags, and high-end clothing." "Miss, can you translate for me?" Xia Huanhuan did not refuse, walked over and helped the Fujian stall to translate for a while. However, the conversation was ultimately unsuccessful. Pearl farming here in Fujian province has just started. The age is too low, the size cannot meet Smith standards, and wild pearls are hard to come by, so they cannot meet the quantity requested by Smith. In the end, Smith could only regretfully say thank you and leave. Xia Huanhuan saw the opportunity and asked, "Mr. Smith, if you want to buy high-quality pearls, I have some methods. However, the pearls I can provide are not displayed at the Canton Fair. If you don't mind, I can show you some samples." Smith's eyes lit up after hearing this. Pearls can actually be purchased in other parts of the world. But his company has a branch in Hong Kong. If he can buy high-quality and cheap pearls from the mainland, he can save a lot of money. "I don't care if it has been displayed at the Canton Fair, as long as it meets our standards, we are willing to buy it." After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Okay, I'll ask my friend first, and I'll treat you to it early tomorrow morning. How about going to Guang City for morning tea and bringing you some samples?" Smith smiled and said, "No problem. I will stay in Guang City for another 3 days. The time is right." Huanhuan and Smith waved goodbye. By chance, Chen Rongxing also came over and was waving to Xia Huanhuan. Chen Rongxing just heard something about Xia Huanhuan talking to Smith in English, and Smith smiled and said, "No problem. I will stay in Guang City for another 3 days. The time is right." Huanhuan and Smith waved goodbye. By chance, Chen Rongxing also came over and was waving to Xia Huanhuan. Chen Rongxing just heard something about Xia Huanhuan talking to Smith in English and couldn't help but smile. "Miss Xia, you really The two of them didn't stay at the Canton Fair, so they went to a rice roll store outside to eat and talk. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Mr. Chen, I mainly want to ask you this time if I can get something big." Chen Rongxing asked, "Big? What do you mean?" Xia Huanhuan looked at him, said, "Large electrical appliances such as washing machines, televisions, refrigerators, fans, etc." Chen Rongxing was stunned for a moment. He knew that Xia Huanhuan was not simple, but he did not expect that what she wanted was such a big item. Not only were these items expensive, but they could only be purchased with foreign exchange coupons.
"Do you
have that much money?" Each of these large electrical appliances easily costs hundreds of dollars. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Money is not an issue. Mr. Chen, can you help me get each of these 4 electrical appliances to Shirtai?" Chen Rongxing glared at her and said, "It's okay to get it. But these are big items. How do you plan to transport them? The shipping cost is huge. Are you planning to sell it yourself?" Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, "It's mainly for sale, but I also plan to use it for my own home. I have a way to deal with the transportation. It's not a big problem."
Chen Rongxing said, "Well,
okay. I'll go and contact them. I'll give you news in 3 days, okay?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "Thank you, Mr. Chen." After talking to Chen Rongxing, Xia Huanhuan went back through the space. She didn't have classes in the morning and stayed in the house all the time. Everyone thought she was sleeping in the house. Chunyan was looking at something in the yard. Now seeing her get up, Chunyan was startled and quickly hid the things behind her and said with a smile, "Fourth aunt, are you awake?" Xia Huanhuan saw it, but didn't expose it. She nodded and smiled, "Yeah." As she was talking, someone suddenly came to the door and knocked. "Is anyone home?" Chunyan went over and opened the door, and Xia Huanhuan was shocked when she saw it. It turned out that the person who came in was the vice president of Peking University. The vice president had gray hair, wore glasses, was gentle and elegant, and had the bookish air of an older scholar. He asked, "Excuse me, do Rong Zhenbang and Xin Wanxua live here?" Xia Huanhuan hurried to greet her and said, "Are you looking for my father-in-law and mother-in-law?"
They went out for something and should be back soon. Would you like to wait for a while? After Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue returned to the city, they would go to the street office every morning to inquire about the work arrangements, so they have not come back yet. After listening, the vice president nodded and said, "Then let's wait for a while." Xia Huanhuan led them into the main room and sat them down and quickly brewed a pot of biluacun and brought it up. The vice president looked at them carefully, then smiled and said, "Are you Xia Huanhuan? You ranked second in the economics department? At the beginning of the semester, you were wrongly accused of cheating. In order to prove your innocence, you asked the professors of various subjects to rewrite the questions. You were the student who did very well in the exam, right? All the professors in the department praised you highly." Xia Huanhuan saw that the vice president recognized her and couldn't help feeling embarrassed. "Principal Lin, it's me." The professors were lenient. If they had given me a difficult question seriously, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Vice President Lin smiled and said, "You don't have to be modest. I also looked at that question later. It was very well written, and you answered it very well. Your insights into the country's future economic policies and economic trends are very sharp. Your future is limitless. However, I didn't expect that you are actually the daughter-in-law of Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue. I heard that their child was lost for many years. Is it found?" Just as she was talking, Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue came back. Xia Huanhuan greeted them and said, "Dad, Mom, someone is looking for you." Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue looked at them and couldn't help being stunned. "Principal Lin." When Vice President Lin saw the two, he quickly stood up and shook hands with them, saying, "Comrade Jinbong, Comrade Shen, I'm sorry for wronging you. I'm sorry that I'm late. It's just that things have not been finalized yet, and I was afraid of letting you down, so I came just now." Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue looked at each other, their hearts beating uncontrollably. Rong Jinbong asked, "Principal Lin, what do you mean?" Principal Lin smiled and said, "The school and the Education Bureau have agreed to resume your work at Peking University. Starting next week, you can go to school to teach students." Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue had just heard what Principal Lin said. Although they already had a prediction in their hearts, they were still overjoyed to hear the news come true. Really? The school really agrees? They went to the street office every day and actually set their expectations very low. At the very least, sweeping the streets would be fine. The main thing was that they didn't want to eat for free at home. Unexpectedly, things developed much better than they expected. Vice Principal Lin nodded solemnly and said, "If it wasn't true, I wouldn't even dare to visit you. I came here to give you the appointment letter." As he said that, he handed the appointment letter with beautiful red calligraphy to the two. This is of course just a formality, and the acceptance of organizational relations will be carried out later. Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue looked at the hard-won appointment letter, and they couldn't help but be moved to tears. The suffering they had endured for so many years is really over. They can be respected teachers again, teaching and educating people. After seeing off Principal Lin, Xia Huanhuan came up and couldn't help but said happily, "Dad, Mom, congratulations. You finally waited for the clouds to clear and the moon to shine." Rong Jinbong and Shen Wanxue nodded continuously. "Oh, I didn't expect that I could resume my work in my lifetime. It's really
Great."
When Li Zhan came back and heard the news, he was also very happy. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I'll go pick some radishes and cabbages and prepare some dumpling fillings. Let's eat dumplings to celebrate today." Chen Yan and Xia Huanhuan went to pick radishes and cabbages together, while Lin Yuru and Shen Wanxue were busy kneading the dough, but Li Zhan was still responsible for the meat and dough work. While picking, Chen Yan couldn't help but ask excitedly, "Fourth aunt, are those people from Peking University just now? I heard you call the one in the middle the principal."
Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Yes."
"Then are they here to find Grandpa Rong and Grandma Shen?" Xia Huanhuan nodded. "Your Grandpa Rong and Grandma Shen were originally teachers at Peking University, and this time they are invited back to school to continue teaching. Aren't all the people at Peking University college students? Are Grandpa Rong and Grandma Shen teaching college students?" "Grandpa Rong and Grandma Shen are so amazing."
Xia Huanhuan looked at her and smiled. That's right. They are all great people, very powerful. Chen Yan was somewhat envious and could not help but lower her head in shame. I can't do it. I can't even write my own name. Xia Huanhuan remembered the moment when she saw Chen Yan secretly hiding something before, but she didn't say anything for the time being. At that moment, the two of them moved all the radishes and cabbages that had been pulled out to the whole yard, washed them with water, and then took them to the kitchen. The radishes were cut into shreds and steamed in a pot, and then the excess water was squeezed out with gauze, and then chopped again. The work of chopping the meat filling was naturally done by Li Zhan. The best ratio is 30% fat and 70% lean meat. After the meat filling is chopped, it is mixed with radish and cabbage. This is also 70% meat filling, and the remaining 30% is radish and cabbage to relieve greasiness. The seasoning is the job of Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru. In a short while, a large pot of dumpling filling is ready. Li Zhan is responsible for rolling the dumpling skins, and the others wash their hands and take charge of wrapping them. Near noon, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and the twins also came back. Xia Huanhuan asked them to wash their hands and join the ranks of making dumplings. The person who rolled the dumpling skins also changed from Li Zhan alone to Xia Shuangshan, Rong Zhenbang, and Li Zhan. Everyone worked together and soon made hundreds of dumplings. Lin Yuru and Chen Yan went to light the fire, and when the water boiled, they put the dumplings in. Xia Huanhuan asked Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and the triplets to take the wrapped dumplings to Fu's family and Fu Nanjing respectively. When they came back, the dumplings were cooked. One person served a pearl, and everyone ate it. The next day, Xia Huanhuan went to Guangzhou through the space again. She first met Smith in a tea house. Xia Huanhuan took out more than a dozen pearls that she cultivated in the space as samples. There were seawater pearls and freshwater pearls. 1 month of growth in her space is equivalent to 1 year in reality. Therefore, the 6-month pearls she took out are actually the size of 6-year pearls. The larger pearls are 8 millimeters each, and the smaller ones are 5 millimeters. The freshwater ones are sparkling white and light purple, while the seawater ones are sparkling white and golden. Smith looked at the pearls in front of him, his eyes just shining. This is better than what he saw abroad. Smith nodded and said, "This is very good. How about this? Pearls of this size are 20 each, and these smaller ones are 15 each. How about it?" Smith looked at Xia Huanhuan very confidently, thinking that Xia Huanhuan would agree immediately. After all, the general salary in this country is not high now, and 20 yuan is half a month's salary. This money is equivalent to the purchasing power of hundreds or thousands of US dollars abroad. If it were not for this, he would not have thought of coming here to buy pearls. It's a pity that Xia Huanhuan is not from this era. She knows the market conditions abroad. In particular, in the 1970s and 1980s, pearl cultivation technology was not yet developed. If the foreign prices were converted to the price level before she traveled through time, I'm afraid they would be much more expensive. What's more, her pearls are all nucleus-free pearls, which are more precious than the artificial nucleus ones in later generations. Xia Huanhuan shook her head and said, 20 is too low. I can't accept it. Smith looked at her, pretending to be at ease and not asking you to buy it, and said with a smile, 20 is not low. I think you can consider it. Xia Huanhuan smiled and asked the shopkeeper to find a hammer. She picked a larger pearl and smashed it with the hammer. Smith looked at her in surprise. Xia Huanhuan showed the broken pearl fragments to Smith and said with a smile, Mr. Smith, you can see for yourself that my pearls are all nucleusless. In our country, pearl powder can be used for beauty and skin care and can also be used as medicine. My pearls are all of the quality that can be used as medicine directly. Moreover, it takes at least 6 years for such a large pearl to grow. Your company is engaged in luxury goods, and your customers are naturally rich or noble. I believe that they should like these clothes and bags decorated with pearls that can be used as medicine from the mysterious Oriental country. However, if they knew that these pearls were purchased by your company at 20 or 15 yuan each, I am afraid they would feel that their status has dropped, right? Smith was speechless. In the luxury goods industry, the pursuit is mainly expensive and rare.
Not only the products are expensive, but also the raw materials are expensive. And the more mysterious and wonderful the origins are, the more they can attract the attention of those noble ladies. Smith had to admit that the Oriental woman in front of him understood luxury goods. He couldn't help but look at the woman in front of him. He saw that she was wearing clothes that ordinary women in this country wore. Apart from being very beautiful, there was nothing special about her. But at this moment, Smith looked at her with admiration. "Miss Xia, you're very eloquent. How about this kind of big pearl, 30 yuan per pearl and 20 yuan per small pearl?" Xia Huan still shook her head and said, 80 for a big pearl, 50 for a small one.
If you agree, we can talk about it.
If not, forget it. The exchange rate in 1978 was about 1.58, which means that $1 abroad was exchanged for $1.50. But this was the price on the surface, and there was basically no way to get the exchange. On the contrary, on the black market, the exchange rate can be reduced to 10:1, which means $1 abroad was exchanged for $10. Xia Huan's offer was 80 per pearl, which was about $8. It was not cheap, but compared with the price of luxury goods that could easily reach hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands, it was not much. Smith was embarrassed. He looked at the dazzling pearls in front of him, each of which was round and beautiful. If they were used to embellish clothes and bags, or even used alone to make necklaces, earrings, and other accessories, they would definitely set off a pearl craze in the foreign fashion industry. And as long as they got good quality raw materials, their company could be the first and even monopolize the market. Smith said, "It's too expensive, 50 per pearl and 40 for a small one. How about it?" Xia Huan still insisted on her offer. "No. How about this? The big pearls remain at 80 and the small ones, I am willing to pay 45. We can each compromise. How about that?" Smith frowned and thought for a moment and said, "Well,
okay.
This time, I am willing to compromise. Just regard it as calling you Miss Xia a friend." Smith wanted 100 big pearls and 150 small pearls, a total of 14,750 yuan. Smith said with some embarrassment, "But I don't have so much money from your country." Xia Huan smiled. "Mr. Smith, you don't have to exchange it. You can pay me with your country's money, but the exchange rate cannot be 110 on the black market, but 1:8. Smith was stunned for a moment and asked in confusion, "But what do you want so much of our country's currency for? You can't spend it, right?" Xia Huan smiled. "This, of course I have my way. Mr. Smith doesn't have to worry." After hearing this, Smith did not ask any more questions. He gave Xia Huan about 1,800 foreign currencies at an exchange rate of 1.8. Xia Huan also handed over the pearls to Smith. Smith left a business card to Xia Huan and said with a smile, "Miss Xia, I hope we can establish a long-term cooperation. I wonder if you have any intention in this regard?" Xia Huan smiled and said, "We will slowly see about the future. Just selling pearls, although judging from the domestic situation, the profit is considerable." But Xia Huan does not intend to stop there. In the future, she wants to create her own brand and make pearls into finished products to sell at home and abroad. At that time, high-quality raw materials will be her highlight that is superior to other companies and brands. Naturally, she would not be willing to sell this highlight to other companies easily. Smith also saw the intelligence and ambition in Xia Huan's eyes and smiled and said, "Miss Xia, I can feel that you may be a strong opponent of our company in the future. However, I think you haven't started yet. If you cooperate with us for the time being, we will be in a win-win situation. You can consider it." Xia Huan smiled and said, "Of course. I also hope that I will have the opportunity to cooperate with Mr. Smith again next time." Short-term cooperation is still very attractive. After saying goodbye to Smith, Xia Huan came back directly through the space. Another day passed, and it was time to meet with Chen Rongxing. Xia Huan still went to Guangzhou through the space and met with Chen Rongxing at the tea house where they had breakfast before. Chen Rongxing said, "There is no problem with electrical appliances, but the prices are not cheap, and the other party requires Hong Kong dollars or foreign currencies to settle. If not, They will require gold or jade.
These.
Can you exchange them on the black market? Xia Huanhuan more or less guessed that this would be the case. In the current situation, domestic money is more or less not trusted outside. She smiled and said, "Then I'll pay with US dollars." Chen Rongxing was stunned for a moment. If Xia Huanhuan had said that he would pay with gold and jade or even Hong Kong dollars, he would not be so surprised. But US dollars. Even in Hong Kong, it takes a lot of trouble to exchange them for US dollars. Xia Huanhuan naturally would not reveal Smith's side of the matter, and smiled. "I have my own way. Anyway, the goods are genuine and the price is fair. Mr. Chun, don't worry. At that time, I will pay a 10% deposit. The rest will be paid and delivered when the goods are shipped." Although Chen Rongxing had only dealt with Xia Huanhuan once, he was open-minded and felt that Xia Huanhuan could be trusted.
He said, "Then."
"Okay. However, if you want 10 for the first time, the other party will definitely not be willing to take this risk. The manufacturer agrees to give you 3 color TVs, 3 washing machines, and 2 refrigerators. As for the price, the color TV is 500 and the refrigerator and fully automatic washing machine are both 600. How about it? There are also single drum washing machines, which are cheaper, 100 yuan each. If you want a single drum washing machine, it is said that you can get 5. This price is not cheap, but it is not expensive either. After all, in this era, domestic large-scale electrical appliances are just starting out. Refrigerators, washing machines, and televisions are still luxury goods that ordinary people can't afford. Domestic Little Swan washing machines and color TVs were only produced this year. Although refrigerators and black and white TVs have existed since the 1950s, they were not popular at all. Therefore, the prices are all around 600 or 700. These are all imported goods, but because foreign technology is advanced and the scale is large, the prices are not more expensive than domestic ones. Xia Huanhuan didn't bargain much and smiled. "Okay. 3 color TVs, 3 fully automatic washing machines, 5 single drum washing machines, and 2 refrigerators, a total of 5,000 yuan. I'll pay a 10% deposit, which is 500 yuan. I'll give you the US dollar at the black market price of 110, which is 50 US dollars. Is that okay?" Chen Rongxing did the math himself and said no problem. Xia Huanhuan immediately took out 60 US dollars and handed it to Chen Rongxing, saying with a smile, "Although the extra 10 US dollars are not much, Mr. Chen can just treat it as a reward for your help in finding the source of goods. Mr. Chen, just treat it as a morning tea. After the transaction is successful, there will be more." Although Chen Rongxing looked down on the 10 US dollars, he admired Xia Huanhuan's way of dealing with people. He smiled and said, "Then I won't refuse. It may take 4 or 5 days to prepare the goods. By the way, how can I contact you? Do you have a phone number?" Naturally, there is no telephone installed in the courtyard. However, even if it is installed, Xia Huanhuan dare not reveal her phone number. Otherwise, at first glance, it is a number from Beijing. Beijing is more than 2,000 kilometers away from Guangzhou. Civil aviation is not popular now. People all take the green-skin train. It takes 2 days for a one-way trip, which is normal. How can she explain that she shuttles back and forth from Beijing to Guangzhou every few days?
Does she fly?
Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I haven't installed a phone yet. How about this? We will meet here again in 5 days, and we will exchange the money and the goods at that time. How about that?" After hearing this, Chen Rongxing nodded and said, "That's fine. Then we'll meet in 5 days." Back in Jingshi, Lin Yuru and Chen Yan were stewing beef, pig's face, pig's ears, pork and beef offal, and the like. Lin Yuru said nervously, "Wanner, come and taste it. If you sell it out in the future, will anyone be willing to pay for it?" Chen Yan smiled and said, "Grandma Lin, your stew tastes so good. I just ate a piece of braised pig's feet. It was so tasty." Xia Huanhuan went over, fished out a piece of beef, then cut it into thin slices and tasted it, and smiled. "Mom, don't worry. With your skills, I guarantee that there will be a long line of people after you open the business in the future." Lin Yuru breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Alas, these are all home-cooked, and every household can make them. If you sell them, won't people feel sorry for the money and not buy them?" Xia Huanhuan said, "You are thinking in the wrong direction. Everyone's life will definitely get better and better in the future. By then, everyone will have spare money, and there will be many people who don't want to cook at home." Lin Yuru listened and nodded continuously, saying, "That's true. Just like your father and I, we never dreamed that one day we would be able to follow you and Li Zhan to the islands and come to Beijing, move into such a big yard, and live like we were wrapped in honey." In the following days, Xia Huanhuan took out various raw materials such as pork and beef offal from the space, as well as spices for braised food, such as pepper, star anise, grass fruit, bay leaf, cinnamon, fennel, tangerine peel, galangal, white cardamom, etc., and tried the recipe again and again, and finally selected the best recipe. Therefore, there was braised food almost every meal at home during this period of time. Chunyan smiled and said, "Fourth aunt, I've gained weight by eating braised meat every day." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "You are thin to begin with. It would be just right if you were a little fatter." 5 days later, Xia Huanhuan went to Guangshi again, and Chen Rongxing really delivered the refrigerator, television, and washing machine to the yard of the house that Xia Huanhuan rented in Guangshi. Xia Huanhuan then gave Chen Rongxing the remaining $450, and as before, she added $30 as a reward. Chen Rongxing couldn't help but admire him. He brought in all the goods through legal and formal customs clearance channels. In fact, if he sold them to the state-owned shopping malls in Guangshi, the price would be lower. Some shopping mall managers didn't know what was going on, and they were arrogant and asked him to spend money on gifts before they would buy his goods. Therefore, he would rather sell to individual customers. However, personal transactions in the mainland have not yet been completely open, and he hasn't met many reliable ones. Chen Rongxing solemnly returned the $30 and said, "Miss Xia, I didn't expect to meet a generous woman like you in the mainland. These extra rewards are not necessary. In the future, I hope we can establish a more long-term cooperation." As he said this, he extended his hand to Xia Huanhuan. Seeing this, Xia Huanhuan did not insist. She took back the $30, then shook hands with him generously and said with a smile, "Mr. Chen, I also hope that we can have a long-term and pleasant cooperation." In late October, Xia Huanhuan asked Li Zhan to find some industrial tickets from his comrades and bought some cement and lime, and then asked Xia Shuangshan to find 2 more people who were good at bricklaying to repaint the walls of the 2 shops bought in Beijing. In the county, Xia Huanhuan also went back through the space and asked Li Jie to help find people to paint the shop on the train station side, and also built the steamer and stove in the back kitchen. It happened that Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe had already bought the shop, so Li Jie directly asked the people who were good at bricklaying in the village to come and help with his own shop and Xia Huanhuan's shop, and paid them some wages every day and provided them with food. If they wanted to live, they all brought their beddings and slept on the floor in the store. Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie planned to open a breakfast shop, open in the morning, selling steamed buns, homemade millet and sweet potato porridge, homemade kimchi and pickles, etc. Zhou Qiuhe has not resigned from her job at the department store, and she does not plan to resign. After all, no one can say for sure whether the store can make money. If it loses money, Zhou Qiuhe's job is still there, and at least their family will not starve. Li Jie said, "You still go to work, and I will open the store. Anyway, we will start with breakfast business and close it around 10 in the morning. I can also do other work. If there is work from Boss Luo, the store will be closed for a few days, or we can hire someone later." Zhou Qiuhe was unsure, so the matter was settled. The department store had helped her move her household registration to the county town, and the 4 children in the family also moved there. Li Jie's household registration had not been moved yet, mainly because Li Jie was reluctant to leave the land in the village. What if he could no longer stay in the city, and the household registration of their whole family had to be moved to the city, and they would not even have the land in the village? What would they do? Would they starve in the county town? Xia Huanhuan asked with a smile, "I plan to open the business after the Chinese New Year." Third brother and sister-in-law, when are you planning to open? The New Year's Eve of 1979 was January 28th of the Gregorian calendar, and the 5th day of the first lunar month was the day for the big market opening. Xia Huanhuan set the opening time for the two stores in Beijing on the 5th day, and the one in the county town on the 6th day. Zhou Qiuhua and Li Jie smiled and said, "Then let's open on the 6th day as well, so that we can open together, and it will be more festive." Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "That's good. I have contacted a good food supplier for my store. If you want, you can also supply some food for me in the future. The price should be cheaper than that of the grain station and the meat station." Zhou Qiuhua listened and smiled. "That's great.
We are also worried about this."
Li Jie went back to Qingshui village a few days ago to ask about the situation. "We originally thought that if it doesn't work, we can buy flour, vegetables, pork directly from Qingshui village commune, as well as wild mushrooms, winter bamboo shoots, spring bamboo shoots, and fungus in our mountains. They are all great things. But after asking, although the village has secretly begun to divide the land to each household and let everyone grow it themselves, they still dare not buy and sell grain at will. They said that they can secretly give us some mountain products. We went to the grain station and the meat station to ask about the flour, millet, pork, eggs, etc., and the price is really not cheap. So your third brother and I are worried that we will lose money and can't continue." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "That's fine. I will go back and tell the supplier I know, and then I will order an extra batch of goods and send them to your store." After this matter was settled, Xia Huanhuan visited Master Lu again, brought some gifts, and told him when the store would open. Master Lu couldn't help laughing excitedly. "It's finally opening? The 6th day of the first lunar month.
Great.
By then, the neighbors will be able to eat the soup dumplings and yangchun noodles made by me, old Lu." Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled. "Mr. Lu, it will all depend on you then. Don't worry about the ingredients. They will definitely be the freshest." By the end of October, Chen Yan had been in Beijing for a month. Xia Huanhuan took out 30 yuan and handed it to her. Chen Yan looked at it and looked up at Xia Huanhuan in astonishment. "Fourth aunt, didn't you say 20 yuan a month? Why did you give 30? Xia Huanhuan smiled. "I heard from your third aunt that your mother asked you to send 15 yuan home a month, right? You should still send 15 back and keep the remaining 15 for yourself. If you see clothes or shoes you like or snacks you want to eat, you can buy them with your own money. But there is one thing, you are not allowed to use this money to learn bad things, do you hear me?" Chen Yan looked at Xia Huanhuan in a daze, and then she believed that the extra 10 yuan was not given to her by mistake, but was really given to her. She couldn't help but panic. "Fourth aunt, 5 yuan a month is enough for my pocket money. Fourth aunt, you have bought me 2 sets of clothes and shoes. And food and accommodation are all free." Li Zhan walked in at this time and said, "Chen Yan, your aunt asked you to take it, so just take it. Just don't spend it recklessly." Xia Huanhuan also joked, "Yeah, you are 17 years old, and it's time to find a husband in 2 years. Save some money for yourself so that you will have enough confidence when you go to your husband's family in the future. If your future husband dares to bully you, beat him up immediately, and then take the money and leave. Don't suffer grievances." Chuanyan's face flushed, and she stamped her feet shyly and said, "Oh, fourth aunt. Why are you talking about this when you are fine?" After saying that, he ran out with a red face. Seeing that there was no one in the room, Li Zhan could not help but hug his wife from behind and said with a smile, "You are sharing your experience with others? Do you always think in your little head that if I bully you, you will beat me up and run away?" Xia Huanhuan felt itchy on her neck due to the stubble on his chin, so she raised her hand to push his chin and said with a smile, "Isn't it? I tell you, I am a small rich woman now. If you dare to bully me again, I will run away immediately." Li Zhan said aggrievedly, "Bully you again? You talk as if I have bullied you before?" Xia Huanhuan thought to herself, "You didn't bully me at other times, but you did bully me a lot in bed." The two quarreled with each other for a while, and Xia Huanhuan said, "Hey, let me tell you something serious. My master should be back in December. How about we go pick her up and go back to Qingshui village at the same time? I haven't been back for a long time." Li Zhan nodded and said, "Okay. It's a good time to ask my parents. They probably want to go back to the village for a long time." The days passed slowly. Xia Huanhuan still found time to be with Qiningyu. When she was free, She set up a stall outside to sell sweaters and jeans. However, after a few days, Xia Huanhuan directly called Qinlu. She didn't call her before, mainly because she thought that Qinlu was still a student. If people knew that they were selling clothes outside, she didn't know what would happen to the school. She couldn't let Qinlu bear this risk. However, Qinlu saw that she was very busy since the beginning of the semester, so he asked about it. Xia Huanhuan secretly told Qinlu about her selling clothes. After listening to it, Qinlu was very interested, and Xia Huanhuan agreed to let her go. After the weather turned cold, there were obviously more people buying sweaters than jeans. However, Xia Huanhuan was not afraid of the backlog of jeans. Anyway, her goods would be unique until at least next spring, and they could still be sold after the store opened after the new year. The two shops in Jingshi and the shop at the county train station were almost painted. The next step was to find a carpenter to make tables, chairs, and benches, and buy various kitchen utensils. The Jingshi garment factory made racks for hanging clothes and shelves. Xia Huanhuan had wood in her space, so she found two skilled carpenters in the county and Jingshi to start work. Xia Huanhuan also asked Zhou Qiuhe and Li Jie to make the tables and chairs in their shops, but she didn't ask for no money at all. It was at least twice as cheap as if they went to the county timber factory to buy them themselves. December soon arrived, and the famous meeting was held. In late December, the radio began to broadcast some exciting news about the conference. Everyone was filled with excitement and joy, especially the professors of the Department of Economics of Kyoto University, who also participated in the resolution of the conference and offered suggestions. Xia Huanhuan was not surprised by all this. She had been waiting for this, and only with the clear good news did she dare to let go and do it. She had been delaying the opening of those shops until after the Chinese New Year, for fear of opening too early and becoming the first to be exposed. After hearing the news, Xia Huanhuan immediately dragged Li Zhan to the Industry and Commerce Bureau to handle the formalities. The business license had not yet appeared, and it would not be issued until 2 years later. Therefore, Xia Huanhuan went to register, and then asked the Industry and Commerce Bureau to issue a letter of approval for the opening of the shop. On the other hand, the prices of shops in various parts of Beijing City also rose. Those that no one cared about before, now not to mention the 800 that Xia Huanhuan opened before, even if it was 1,000 or 2,000 or even several thousand, there were still many people rushing to buy. Qi Jian said that he had no emotions in his heart, but that was impossible. Apart from anything else, if he sold the shop now, his storefront would at least double in price and sell for 16,000 or more. But he was relieved soon. What's wrong with asking for 800 more? Xia Huanhuan has been their family's benefactor for the past year. Apart from other things, if Xia Huanhuan hadn't come to check his pulse and send him medicine every few days, he probably wouldn't have lived for more than half a year. And his daughter Ningyu has been selling clothes with Xia Huanhuan since September and has earned hundreds of yuan. This is naturally Xia Huanhuan's intention to share the profits with Ningyu, otherwise, she would have made more money selling the popular clothes herself, wouldn't she? Qi Jian thought about it and no longer had any grudges in his heart. Instead, he was more willing to help Xia Huanhuan. The street office mentioned that the house that originally belonged to his family's restaurant was to be rented out, but there was no follow-up later. Qi Jian thought about it, and then he ran over to ask several times on crutches and asked the street office to urge the higher-ups. He couldn't help thinking that if it was Xia Huanhuan, maybe they could revive their Qi family's restaurant and let the old building that had been floating for 100 years to restore its former bustling scene. If that's the case, even though he didn't keep the family business, he still has some face to see the old man in the underworld. On the 2 days of New Year's Day, Beijing University, military academies, and primary and secondary schools all had a day off. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan took Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yuru, and 6 children. In addition, Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang also said they wanted to go over and take a look. Therefore, even Chen Yan and the wolf cubs went back to Qingshui village in a mighty way. The house in the village had not been lived in for a long time. As soon as they got home, everyone was busy cleaning, giving the gifts brought from Beijing to the people in the village who had good relationships, and immediately went to find Yang Qiushi. Yang Qiushi was also packing things to go back to the city. When I say packing, I actually just distribute his things, except for important medical books, to other people who have not received the notice to return to the city. He plans to live alone after returning to the city. The Yang family's houses and shops in Beijing, Shanghai, and other places have not returned yet, but like Shen Wanxue and others, they still have a small house in Beijing where they can temporarily live. He didn't want to trouble Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan. So when he saw Xia Huanhuan coming, he was a little surprised. Huanhuan, Li Zhan? Why did you come back suddenly? Xia Huanhuan smiled. Master, we came here specially to pick you up. Yang Qiushi was stunned for a moment, then waved his hand and said, Didn't I say that I have a place to go after returning to the city? I can do it alone. I'm an old man. How can I still drag you and Li Zhan down? Speaking of words, he was moved in his heart. Although he had no wife, children, or daughters, he actually had nephews and nieces from the side branches, but these relatives had not had any contact with him for so many years. In the end, it was Xia Huanhuan, who was not a relative, who cared about him. Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, Master, what are you talking about? You are my master and you taught me all my medical skills. What's wrong with you living with us? Li Zhan also said, Huanhuan is right. Uncle Yang, don't think too much. You are the triplets' godfather, have you forgotten? You can help us take care of the children so that we can have some free time, right? As they were talking, the triplets and Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei all came over. Grandpa Yang. Seeing Yang Qiushi, the 6 children shouted happily and rushed over. The triplets were little and smart, running over, hugging Yang Qiushi's legs, looking up and shouting affectionately, Grandpa Yang, we miss you so much. Yan Yan and Ye ran fast and hugged Yang Qiushi's legs respectively. Yao Yao was a step late, so he said anxiously, You guys go to the side, I want to hug Grandpa Yang too. I miss Grandpa Yang too. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan's mouths twitched slightly. They swore to the heavens that they had never taught these 3 little brats to act cute. They also said, We miss you so much. Who knew who they learned this from? Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei also came over and said, Grandpa Yang, we do too. You can live with us. However, Yang Qiushi was used to being alone, and when he was suddenly surrounded by so many children, he couldn't help but burst into tears. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were only that tall before, and at night, Xia Huanhuan asked them to bring baskets to secretly bring him and Shen Wanxue food. The triplets were still in their cradles at that time and couldn't even speak. In the blink of an eye, they have grown so big.
Hey!
Grandpa Yang misses you too. You have all grown up so much. At this time, Shen Wanxue and Rong Zhenbang also came over. Old Yang, long time no see. Yang Qiushi was stunned when he saw Rong Zhenbang and Shen Wanxue, and then he couldn't help but walk over and excitedly grabbed Rong Zhenbang's hand. Old Rong, I never thought I would see you again. He and Rong Zhenbang had known each other since they were young. Rong Zhenbang also smiled and said, Me too. Old Yang, thank you for taking care of Wanxue for me during that time. Yang Qiushi waved his hands and said, I have been a useless person these past few years. Shen Wanxue smiled and said, Old Yang, that's not what you meant. If it weren't for your prescription, I would have been blind. But we don't have to talk about this. Old Yang, Huanhuan, and Li Zhan are both sincere, and Zhenbang and I live with them. When the policy comes down and the Yang family's houses and shops are returned to their original owners, you can move out, and no one will stop you, right? You have just returned to the city, so why don't we all live together so that we can take care of each other? Xia Huanhuan also continued to persuade, Yes, Master. I still have a lot of medical skills that I haven't learned. Master, if you don't agree to live with us, then I will have to rent a house near where you live and bother you every day to continue teaching me. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei also begged, Grandpa Yang, just agree. The triplets pulled his trouser legs and shouted, Grandpa Yang, come and live here. If you come, my mom won't dare to beat us. Xia Huanhuan. Li Zhan. Everyone laughed. Yang Qiushi couldn't help asking, Why doesn't your mom dare to beat you? Yan Yan looked up and said naively, You are my mom's teacher. My mom has to listen to the teacher. Once you say so, they won't dare to beat us.
If your mom doesn't beat you, there is still your dad.
If you dare to be naughty, I will punish you, Li Zhan said, deliberately holding back his laughter. Yi said, Dad, you have grandparents to take care of you. If you dare to hit us, we will let them beat you.
Li Zhan.
Yao Yao counted on his fingers and slowly continued, and grandparents, grandpa, great-grandpa, Grandpa Yang, you must come and live with us. The teacher said that unity is strength. As he said that, he did not forget to bend his arm and make a fist. Everyone couldn't help laughing. Xia Huan and Li Zhan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Unity is strength. Is this how it is used? So these three little brats have thought it through. Are they going to mobilize the whole family to isolate her and Li Zhan? Yang Qiushi was moved and wanted to laugh, but after listening to everyone's words, he finally nodded and said, Well, okay. But if I want to move out, you can't stop me. Xia Huan smiled and said, Of course. This matter was settled. Immediately, everyone helped Yang Qiushi pack up. They stayed in the village at night and would not return to Beijing until the next day, so there was no rush. Xia Huan took some more gifts to see Secretary Zhao. Secretary Zhao's hair was already gray, but he was still the president of the commune school. After the autumn harvest, he secretly held a meeting for everyone and asked for their opinions. Later, with the unanimous consent of the whole village, he quietly divided the commune's fields among each household. Everyone was responsible for their own crops. When the harvest came next year, they would leave enough to be handed over to the collective, and the rest could be kept by their families. Xia Huan listened and admired Secretary Zhao in her heart. The Household Contract Responsibility System, commonly known as the Big Contract System, was first secretly implemented in a small village in Gan Province. The state officially agreed to it, which actually started at the meeting in December. But it will take 2 or 3 years or even longer for it to be implemented in rural areas across the country. Secretary Zhao had foresight and was willing to take responsibility to start before the policy was clear. He was much more courageous than her, a time traveler, because if someone reported him at this time, Secretary Zhao would probably be fired after serving as secretary for many years. Even though she knew the course of history, she was cautious about opening a store after the official reform and opening up was made clear. Secretary Zhao saw Xia Huan and said excitedly, Li Zhan's wife, I'm sorry that you mentioned the big contract responsibility system to me last time you came back, and there were speculations that the national policy might be loosened. The radio has been broadcasting these days, saying that the countryside will also be reformed in the future. In the future, the land will still be collective, but it can be divided into contracted households, and after leaving enough harvest for the collective, they can keep it for themselves. Our commune acted quickly and implemented it before the state said so. Next year's wheat harvest will definitely be a good harvest. Xia Huan looked at this upright and generous old man who had been caring for the commune and the people in the village all his life, and couldn't help but feel sour in her nose. She nodded and said, Secretary Zhao, my information is not accurate. Our commune was able to take the lead because you, Secretary Zhao, took on all the pressure and responsibility. I dare not take credit for it. I believe, Secretary Zhao, our village will definitely have a good harvest next year. Then she said, By the way, Secretary Zhao, don't we grow ginseng and other medicinal herbs in the back mountain every year? Are they still secretly sold on the black market?
Secretary Zhao nodded and said, Yes.
However, in recent years, the black market has lowered the price a lot, but it is still more profitable than grain. It's just that everyone's enthusiasm has been hit a little. Xia Huan smiled and said, Secretary Zhao, my brother is a doctor in the hospital. He knows a lot of people in the Beijing Chinese medicine pharmacy. Now the country has also liberalized it, and we can buy medicinal herbs from individuals. I thought that if our village agrees, I can make a connection and purchase all the medicinal herbs grown by our commune. As long as the quality is up to standard, the price will definitely be higher than the black market. She has all kinds of medicinal herbs in her space, so she doesn't need to buy these. But she is a person who walked out of Qingshui village after all, so she can help as much as she can. As long as the villagers don't rely on their acquaintance with her to pass off inferior products as good ones, she will collect the herbs, store them in her space, and then sell them. Even if she doesn't make money, she won't lose money. Secretary Zhao was overjoyed when he heard this. Li Zhan's wife, if you have this way, that's great. Don't worry, I will personally check the quality, and I will definitely make it easy for you. After leaving Secretary Zhao, Xia Huanhuan went to Aunt Wu's house again. Wu Feng and Qin Shi had another daughter, who is only 1 year old now. She is very delicate and pretty, and Aunt Wu is holding her in her arms to comfort her. Xia Huanhuan gave her an egg cake to eat, and the little one didn't cry. She ate while staring at Xia Huanhuan in a daze. Aunt Wu smiled and said, "You're back just in time. This year I went to the back mountain and picked a lot of chestnuts and fungus, dried wild mushrooms, and picked dates from the jujube trees at the entrance of the village. I will bring you some when you go back." Xia Huanhuan knew that she was sincere, so she smiled and said, "Okay. Then I won't be polite to you, Aunt Wu." Then she asked, "Aunt Wu, how are Qin Shi and Wu Feng these years?" Aunt Wu smiled and said, "They are doing well. Wu Feng follows your third brother Li Jia and goes out to work for a few days from time to time and can bring back dozens of dollars. Qin Shi stays at home to take care of the children and do farm work. However, the two of them are also considering moving to the county town to do business, like your third brother and his wife. Alas, I can't persuade them. I heard that a shop in the county town costs hundreds or thousands of dollars. You said that they have worked so hard to save up their family fortune. What if their business doesn't make money? How can we farmers withstand such a big storm?" Xia Huanhuan heard this and said, "Auntie Wu, don't worry too much. Young people have their own way of living. The world outside will be big in the future. The development in the city will be much faster than in the countryside. Wu Feng and Qin Shi want to go to the county town, which I think is a good idea." Auntie Wu heard this and asked doubtfully, "Huanhuan, what you said. Is it true?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and smiled. "Auntie Wu, I came here today for something. I wanted to ask Qin Shi if she was willing. I bought a shop in the county some time ago, and I wanted to do a restaurant business. However, I have been in Beijing for a long time, and I don't have much time to come to see the shop, so I wanted to see if Qin Shi was willing. Of course, if Wu Feng and Qin Shi want to buy a shop and do their own business, they must do their best to run their own business. The price of a shop is not high now, and I am afraid it will be even harder to buy in a few years." Auntie Wu heard it and said, "You're planning to open a shop too? Well, then I will wait for them to come back and ask them. They have no experience in doing business. If they can work in your shop for a while and have some experience, I won't stop them if they want to go out and do it." Xia Huanhuan nodded, chatted for a while, and then went back. When she left, Auntie Wu really gave her a lot of dried black fungus, mushrooms, dates, and chestnuts. When Qin Shi and Wu Feng came back, Aunt Wu told them what Xia Huanhuan had said. "Your sister-in-law Wana meant that Chi-Chi should help look after the store, and the second child should still go out with your third brother Li. I will help you take care of the children, and your sister-in-law Wana said that you can earn 30 or 40 yuan a month. That's a lot. Mom doesn't disagree with you opening your own store, but you have saved so little money with great difficulty. If you open a store and make money, it's fine. If not, what will you do? How old are your son and daughter? When they get married in the future, don't you have to start preparing the bride price and dowry now? I think it's better to work with your sister-in-law Wana for a few years and then start your own business after you have some experience. It's safer." Wu Feng and Qin Shi were actually unsure about opening their own store. They just thought that since Li Jia's family had bought a store, they could give it a try. But Zhou Qiuha had been a salesperson in the supply and marketing cooperative for several years, and she was not afraid of selling things and doing business. She could also use an abacus, so she was not afraid. Qin Shi was at a loss. "How about we listen to Mom and work with sister-in-law Wana for 2 years to see how things go?" Qin Shi looked at Wu Feng and asked. Wu Feng hesitated for a moment and said, "That's fine. We can move to the county town first, and then slowly look for a storefront. The last time we looked at the stores, Brother Li San said the location was not good, and we can't just look for a cheap one." The family discussed and decided to accept Xia Huanhuan's proposal. Immediately,
Qinqi, Wu Feng, and Aunt Wu came to Xia Huanhuan's house and told her the purpose of their visit.
Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "That's fine.
You don't have to rent a house in the county for the time being. I saw a house for rent near the store, so I rented it. You can live there first and move out if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to pay rent." Qinqi said immediately, "Sister-in-law Wana, how can that be? We should pay the rent ourselves." Xia Huanhuan waved her hand and smiled. "It's okay. Didn't we agree to provide you with food and accommodation? You can just stay here." The matter was settled. Xia Huanhuan specifically told Qinqi, "The chef in the restaurant is surnamed Liu. He is a nice guy, but he has a bad temper. You should be fine if you respect him. It's just that being a manager is not easy. You should learn first. I will come back more often in the early stage. If you have any questions, just send me a telegram. By the way, there is one more thing. You also went to school for 2 years, right? There are night schools in the county. You can sign up and learn more. At least you should be able to understand account books." Qinqi agreed to all of them. The Wu family talked for a while, and then went back. It started snowing in the evening. Early the next morning, thick snow had already accumulated outside. The adults were freezing to death, and the children were not afraid of the cold. They got up early in the morning and went crazy in the yard, and then went to the village. Xia Shuangshan and Li Zhan also had the urge to take them up the mountain to catch wild roe deer. Rong Zhenbang and Yang Qiushi also said they wanted to go together. Xia Huanhuan thought they were too childish, and together with Lin Yuru and Shen Wanxue, they prepared pancakes, boiled eggs, millet porridge, and other things for them, so that they could eat their fill before going. The children were happy. Xiaowen and Xiaowu laughed and said, "Uncle, I must catch a wild roe deer this time. Let the whole class know, the whole school envy me." Li Zhan laughed and said, "Hunting is not something you can get just because you want to, but we can try to catch more rabbits." The triplets also said, "Dad, we want to hunt rabbits too." Xiaowen and Xiaowu were fine, because when they were young, they lived in Qingshui village and had experienced hunting in the mountains. When the triplets were older, they had moved to the island, and later returned to Beijing. They didn't remember anything when they were in the village, so it was even more fresh. Even the wolf cubs were eager to try, running around excitedly around people. A group of men led the wolf cubs into the mountains in a mighty manner. Xia Huanhuan, Lin Yuru, and Shen Wanxue watched them disappear at the end of the snow trail. A little further away, the snow-covered mountains appeared before their eyes, and from time to time, the sound of snowflakes crushing branches and trees could be heard. Lin Yuru couldn't help laughing and said, "It's only half a day, and you're not afraid of tossing." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Let them take the kids to have some fun, just as exercise." She couldn't help thinking that she could take them back to the village to live for a while during the winter and summer vacations. There was no need to do farm work, and rural life was also interesting. Near noon, Li Zhan and the others came back. Xiao Wen, Xiao Wu, and the triplets each carried a rabbit in their hands, while Li Zhan carried a wild roe deer. There were also 4 or 5 pheasants, which were carried by Xia Shuangshan, Yang Qiushi, and Rong Zhenbang. The triplets ran over as soon as they entered the yard.
"Mom,
"We caught a rabbit." Yi ran too fast and fell down with his mouth biting the snow. Fortunately, there was a lot of snow in the yard, otherwise he would have had a bloody nose. Xia Huanhuan hurried over and pulled him up. Ye's little face was wrinkled and his eyebrows and face were covered with snow, which made him look both cute and funny. Xia Huanhuan held back her laughter and wiped the snow off his face before she said, "Why are you running so fast?" Yi didn't cry either. She excitedly picked up the rabbit that she was reluctant to let go of even though it had just fallen, and said, "Mom, rabbit. I want to eat roasted rabbit."
Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Okay.
"We can eat it however you want." Then she asked, "Why is there such a good harvest today?" Li Zhan smiled and said, "Have you forgotten what your man does? It's easy to catch a few rabbits and pheasants." Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled, saying, "What a character." Yan said excitedly, "Mom, this rabbit is so stupid. We got some wheat grains and made a trap, and we caught it in a short while. And there was a wild roe deer." It was so scared when it saw us that it lay straight on the ground pretending to be dead, and we caught it. Several little guys chattered excitedly. Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, "You are all amazing. Since we have caught so many wild game today, let's just be rough today." Li Zhan said with a smile. "What are you going to do?" Xia Huanhuan said, "Don't we have firewood at home? Let's just light a fire under the pergola, roast meat while warming ourselves by the fire." With that, everyone started to move. There was too much food to eat in one meal, so Xia Huanhuan asked Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei to take the triplets to send a rabbit and a pheasant to Secretary Zhao's home and Aunt Wu's home respectively. Xia Huanhuan, Lin Yuru, Shan Wanxue, and Chen Yan were responsible for boiling water, scalding and plucking the feathers of the remaining 3 wild pheasants and cleaning up the internal organs. Li Zhan, Xia Shuangshan, Rong Jinbang, and Yang Qiushi were responsible for skinning the wild rabbits, gutting them, and cleaning up the internal organs. After a while, the meat was almost cleaned up. Xia Huanhuan first marinated one of the pheasants with cooking wine, soy sauce, salt, etc., and left the others as they were. Several children also came back, and they were not empty-handed. They brought back a cabbage, 3 or 4 radishes, and 3 or 4 onions. Although the things were all vegetables grown in the fields, they came back suddenly, and Xia Huanhuan couldn't take out fresh vegetables from the space, but they just happened to be used. The seasonings were borrowed from Aunt Wu's house yesterday, but only salt and were borrowed. Cumin, chili powder, and other spices were also taken out of the space. In addition, Xia Huanhuan asked Li Zhan to dig some clay and mix it with hot water to make soft mud. In addition, Xiaowen went to Aunt Wu's house to borrow some dried lotus leaves. In the countryside, people would pick some corn leaves, boil them in water, and then dry them and store them. When steaming steamed buns, they would be spread on the grate to prevent the buns from sticking to the pot. Qingshui village has a lotus pond, so everyone also picked lotus leaves and preserved them in the same way. Xiaowen came back with 3 or 4 lotus leaves in a short while. Xia Huanhuan soaked the pickled wild pheasant with water to soften it a little, rubbed it with oil, salt, cumin, and chili powder, stuffed mushrooms and onions into the belly, and then carefully wrapped it with lotus leaves in several layers, and then wrapped it with a layer of mixed mud on the outside. After making a fire in the pergola, the mud ball wrapped around the chicken was put into the fire and roasted together. This is the common way to cook beggar's chicken. Everyone moved out chairs and roasted around the fire. Li Zhan divided several pickled rabbits into 4 parts, put a rabbit leg on each part, pierced it with branches, and roasted it on the fire. Xia Huanhuan also used the stove to burn firewood and stewed the remaining chicken in a casserole with radish pieces, dried black fungus, dried wild mushrooms, etc. After a while, the hare was roasted to a crispy outside and tender inside, sizzling with oil. It was seasoned with salt, cumin, and various spices. Everyone had one, even the wolf cub, and they ate it with relish. When they were almost done, there was light chicken soup and soft, tasty radish cubes to relieve the greasiness. They chatted while roasting the fire. After the roasted rabbit was finished, they took the beggar chicken out of the fire, smashed the dirt on the outside with a hammer, removed the lotus leaves, and the chicken, which had been roasted soft and oily by the heat, gave off a burst of fragrance. Everyone shared it and ate it, and everyone was full. Rong Jinban couldn't help laughing and said, "Huanhuan still has many ideas. This way of eating sounds rough, but it is really fresh." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Dad, if you like it, we can come again when everyone has winter vacation. Anyway, there is a place to stay in the countryside." After eating this meal, everyone rested for another night. The next morning, they returned to the county town. The wild roe deer were not eaten, so they were taken to the county town. Half of them were given to Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe's family, so that they could make bacon and save them for eating. The other half was taken on the train and sent to the Fu family after returning to Beijing. Yang Qiushi also lived in the courtyard. Soon, those who went to school finished their final exams and ushered in the winter vacation. It was almost the time of the little new year. Everyone began to prepare for the new year. The New Year's goods to be purchased were no different from previous years. The family's income was nominally only Li Zhan's allowance and her subsidy. In addition,
The Fu family knew that she was selling clothes outside. Therefore, it is impossible to buy a lot of expensive things at once. The electrical appliances bought from Chen Rongxing in Guangzhou last time are still lying in the space. Only Li Zhan knows about this at home. However, it is not easy to take out large electrical appliances, but Xia Huanhuan is not so restrained when it comes to food and clothing. She went out with Li Zhan, saying that they were going to the vegetable market, but in fact they took out half a piece of pork directly from the space, and also took a lot of other chickens, ducks and fish and brought them back home. In the winter in the north, the temperature outside is basically below 0 degrees. There is no need to worry about pork, chickens, ducks, and fish going bad. Just pierce a hole and hang them on the tree in the yard with a rope. The children in the family, including Chen Yan, each made a new set of clothes. Several elderly people took cotton cloth and cotton out of the space and asked the tailor shop to help make thick cotton coats and trousers. In addition to Xia Shuangshan, Lin Yiru, Shen Wanxue, Rong Zhenbang, and Yang Qiushi, who lived together in the courtyard, there would naturally be no shortage of things for Grandpa Fu and Fu Weixin. In addition, Xia Huanhuan and her triplets sent a set of gifts to Grandma Luo in the sanatorium, as well as some food. The triplets shouted, "Grandma, can you come to our house and celebrate the New Year with us?" Many people living in the sanatorium are relatives of martyrs, so every year the sanatorium organizes programs and various New Year activities, which is actually quite lively. After hearing what the triplets said, Xia Huanhuan's heart moved, and she smiled and said, "Aunt, the kids are right. If you are